told you that I never would. I told you I changed.
Is parking a car, I'm told?
Yes.
Okay, so it's just where we'll get the, okay, we're ready to get started. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. How's everyone doing tonight? Very well. Good. Okay, first, excuse me?
Check, feel like they can't get in. The parking issue.
Okay. All right, the first item on the agenda is a proclamation and celebration of Juneteenth, which I'm very happy to read. I want to thank Council President Jeff Gross for preparing this proclamation. Thank you, Jeff. Of course. Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in Confederate territory free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2½ years to June 19, 1865, in reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States. And whereas June 19th has a special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth. Omar, are they on? Okay. And it's called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. And whereas the borough of Tenafly recognizes Juneteenth as an important part of our nation's history, and in particular, a landmark event in putting an end to the enslavement of African Americans. Whereas there is still a significant amount of work that needs to be accomplished to educate our nation about the disparate treatment of Americans based on race by the unequal enforcement of laws. Now, therefore, I, Mark Zinner, Mayor of the Borough of Tenafly, New Jersey, do hereby declare Juneteenth 2022 in the Borough of Tenafly, and urge all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history and in the heritage of our nation, state, and town. Thank you.
It sounds like they'll hear you.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda to be considered is the Oresco Park update. Jimmy? Oresco Park update.
Thank you, Mayor. As part of the past meetings, and we discussed how we'd like to proceed, how we'd like to proceed with this project. Back in 2018, the first phase of this project was completed at the park. There were alternates on it, which were not pursued at the time. The grant, 2020 was pursued and awarded to the borough. Right now, we received one quote for work under the threshold. That's from the vendor who completed the first phase of the project at the park. Out of the 4 week, we're obtaining other quotes under local contracts law. So hopefully we'll be we're putting a deadline either this week or next week to receive quotes from other contractors that are qualified in this kind of work. So updates to follow, but we did receive one quote. We are going under the bid threshold. We'll remain under that.
Just to be clear, that bid quote, that's that $90,000 number? What was the number?
That's not the amount that we said before for this work.
It's under the bid threshold.
Under the bid threshold, I would say the amount is an unfair advantage. But it is under our threshold, which is still $4,000.
Okay.
Okay. You want to continue with the administrator's report?
Sure. Just a couple of items.
I apologize. Actually, if we could just add, since we're talking about the Oresco Park, this is something Councilman Grossman and I spoke about the other night. I brought it up with the council. I've had a chance to speak to it, and I appreciate it. I saw Karen on the line of Historic Preservation. As we're thinking about the Oresco Park, as we're thinking about this walkway, which is the main piece of the discussion, I would like to propose getting some more benches and tables, moving some of those over. If we have to use American Recovery's money, I would propose that. But I think that would be a great thing. Again, keep it in line with what the Historic Preservation team thought we wanted to do that area, but get more use. Having spoken to Michelle at the Senior Center and other places, a couple more benches, a couple more tables, checkers. Councilman Grossman thought cribbage. I'm open to learning, but something like that. I think the more we could use Oresco Park, the better. So I'd like to either include that within the stuff we're discussing or something else, but let's do it.
Right now, in this proposal, this is essentially what the alternative was, just for sake of ease and timing. Two benches are in there, but it doesn't include us doing anything. And I would recommend doing it outside of that.
That's fine. Whatever is best.
Just keep on essentially the direction.
That'd be great.
So we can do that, internally, probably staff, probably install.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Just a couple of updates. All of our bottle filling stations are now up and running, the 3 locations. And I did receive an update today for the basketball courts for lighting. That was included in last year's capital budget. The materials have been delivered, and so she will be in tomorrow or after tomorrow.
That's incredible. That's great. Thank you for that, team. That's great.
And last but not least, we did receive confirmation from CSX and their engineering firm for the upgrades to the railroad crossing after Reverend J Street. That is 15 for weekend of July 9. They completed this work on weekends, so Saturday, Sunday, Monday, anticipated for a closure. Signed will be posted 2 weeks prior. And this is a pretty firm date, barring weather, and even weather to conduct the work. And in the interim, we did receive permission to pave it for temporary repairs. So that hasn't done this next Friday. That was completion Saturday morning since we were looking until then. That's all I have, Mayor.
That's all for the administrator's report. Is council members have questions for the administrator?
Yes, just a quick question. Jimmy, as you probably know what I'm going to ask about. How are things going with the request for proposal of the electric vehicle charging stations?
That I could call the engineer who's on vacation. It's also interesting now.
Quite possible, what?
Jimmy, if I may, I did receive some comments from the engineer. I'm working my way through it.
Okay, so maybe his part's done, possibly.
Maybe.
Okay, thank you.
I think I'll need some follow-up questions, but yes.
Any other questions for the borough administrator? Okay. Next item on the agenda is correspondence. The first item is the extension of a storage pod from Fund and Burke. Does anyone have an issue with this? The extension? I'm not hearing any issues with that, so let's go ahead and grant that, if we could, please.
Is there just an additional fee? I didn't understand why we wouldn't do it.
Do you want to, go ahead,
That's
Counselor.
the time is by ordinance, so anything beyond that time frame, they would need an approval to extend it.
Okay. Is there an extended, if there's a certain fee, is there an extended fee, or that's within that fee, the extension?
To be fair, I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to look at the ordinance, or with the code officials, they would know.
We
updated the ordinance, so it should be.
Yes, so the administrator will do whatever, will follow whatever the ordinance requires. It's for the council to decide whether to grant it or not. Okay, Corral, notice of appeal for 26 Birchwood. If I'm not mistaken, this requires a public hearing?
Correct. So this is a change that was made to the ordinance, I believe in 2021, that provided certain circumstances where a homeowner could come to the council for an appeal for removal of sidewalks in certain situations. That's what this would be. So it does require public notice, et cetera. So we'd have to fix the date for when the council would like to hear that appeal, and then notify the property owner so they can take the appropriate actions for noticing.
So what's the next step with this? We notify the property owner?
of the date so that they can properly notice. Jimmy?
If I may,
Go ahead, Jimmy,
so
please.
It requires the person of the requester to submit the application to be denied and go to the mayor and council, which is what we're discussing right now. And then us granting the council granting them to proceed, which would then require the homeowner to notify the neighborhood list. So it would be up to the burden on the homeowner to issue certified mail letters to inform them
So have we informed the homeowner of that, or how does that process work?
tomorrow if this is approved.
So that comes out of your office?
Me and Omar get in conjunction.
So do you need any decisions from the council tonight?
The consensus of the date.
The consensus of the date, and the date you're suggesting is?
Next meeting.
Yeah.
I believe, depending on,
Next meeting.
okay, but, just, I want to be fair to the homeowner to be able to provide them with a list, so if we what's the next.
What's the range of dates so the council can give a consensus?
The next meeting is June 8th, so I would say, I think that's
10-day notice?
Yeah.
Right, so you would just need to let the homeowner know so that they have time to make the notices with the 10-day notice time period in advance. So, if we get back to them tomorrow, they should be able to make the 28th.
Okay, so do we have a consensus from the council for the 28th on this matter?
Yes.
Okay.
How much time do they need to give notice advance? Because I don't think they have to get the list and everything from the day. It's not just
Right.
tell them tomorrow and they can do it tomorrow.
Omar,
Well,
what's the date? Because July is just one meeting.
Yeah, what's the date of the meeting in July? And let's give a range of dates.
And if I may, just to 200 foot list, we could generate that quickly, but to your point, yeah, it would still require them to do the location certified mail, it's a cost, it's a burden on them, so you want to be mindful of the time.
Do the July.
Okay, so the next meeting is July 18th.
So the consensus is a meeting date sometime between now and July 18th. Everyone's okay with that? Okay, we have clarity? Okay, no other questions on that one? Okay, third piece of correspondence from Christine Everon. Any questions or comments from the council on that? No? Yes? No?
Well,
Okay.
I was just going to say, it's a very thorough, she dissects, a lot of American Rescue Funds, uses, and I wasn't sure, is like the appropriate time if she wanted to talk to any of it, like during public comment, or anything now, or just if it's...
She's welcome
part of
to make
record?
comments during public comment, of course.
Okay.
Adam, is your hand up, or no? Okay. All right, so let's move on to public comment. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body on items on the committee of the whole agenda. Large groups are asked to have a spokesperson represent them. So we'll start with the people in this room first, and I believe this young gentleman over here had his name first, hand up first. Come up to the microphone. Please state your name and your address, please.
Hello there, my name is Michael Yang. I live at 256 Castle Drive, Angle Cliffs, New Jersey, and I'm asking to be put on the agenda at the next meeting in order to approve my Eagle Scout project. So my proposed project is to build a sign at the northwest corner of 9W in East Clinton, and it's basically just a sign that includes all these borough service awards and signatures. And overall, the sign would just include like, for example, service awards from the Elks, the Rotary Club, Borough Tree City Awards, and etc. organizations like that. And again, I'm just asking for my project to be put on the agenda for the next meeting.
So unless any of the council members object, we'll put that, Omar, on to be considered. Is the pardon me? Oh, sorry, Vanu, go ahead.
I have a question about the issue of whether there's something that comes with the sign ordinance.
Well, I guess we would have to understand the totality of the project, and then Jimmy will be able to address that with the building department, and we'll figure it out. Right?
I'm just wondering if it makes sense to...
Well,
You understand
I would,
we address it so that if it's not something we cannot do, then we have nothing else to do.
so Jimmy, have a conversation with Mr. Yang beforehand.
Also,
Yeah.
one thing to mention, I sent Mr. Stovall an email including much more details than currently, so if you all can maybe take a look at that later, I think it can clear up a lot of questions.
Okay. So we'll do our homework before that meeting. Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you for being there. I just want to say we're always very excited that our Eagle Scouts help contribute to the town, so thank you so much. kind of approach your project. And then for Jimmy, our 9W sign is actually missing, our welcome to Tenafly sign. Has anyone noticed that?
I have not, no.
Yes, our official Tenafly sign, so can we please look into that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like you're on the agenda for the next meeting. Omar Stovall, our clerk, has some details, and Omar, you have his contact information? Okay. All right, thank you.
so much.
Thank you, we appreciate your energy. We'll see you soon. Yes, sir, come up to the microphone. Shepard, if you could state your name and your address, please.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. My name is Shepard Grinker. 12 Maple, I guess, is my new address. I haven't moved in. I move in next month. Very quickly, I'll try to keep this brief. My name is Shepard Grinker. I'm an inactive member of the Board of Chamber of Board of Commerce. I'm an active member of the Downtown Business Committee. I own 2 businesses in town, both bike shops, Tenafly Bicycle Workshop. Probably someone could clarify this, but I think it's the oldest business in town now. It's on County Road. It's been there since the 70s. I've recently opened up a new store in downtown on 9 West Railroad. 2 issues. First of all is I have a business that mostly serves everywhere from Montclair to Westchester County. It's one of the most sought-after businesses in town, probably. It's a destination business, which is my bike shop on County Road. I chose to double up on my business in town last year. I had outgrown the space on County Road, and rather than move to Ridgewood or a place that could be more lucrative, I chose this town as a place where I wanted to have my business because I love this town. I moved to 9 West Railroad, and my business is struggling, not out of difficulty operational, but just the downtown business in general. First of all, I'd like to talk about the tent at Angelique. While I appreciate the downturn in business in the restaurant industry, as my brother and my family are in the restaurant business, I want them to be successful. The tent is blocking any access to the road, which is cycled on thousands of times per day on Saturday and Sunday. No one knows my business is in town. I would like Angelique to continue to have outdoor dining, not with the tent. Umbrellas, something that's not obstructing the view of my business, is super important to me. Combine the lack of visual access with my retail establishment on Railroad, with the construction that never seems to happen on County Road, people are not coming to downtown Tenafly. They're avoiding it. I'm hearing it from many customers that it's just a pain in the butt to get to downtown Tenafly because County Road's closed. Everyone has to take Piermont. There's a bottleneck. People from Alpine, Closter, Demarest are avoiding our downtown because it's bottlenecked in Cresskill. So couple that with the tent in front of my building, it's making it very challenging. So I'd like it to be considered that anything that happens with that space is less obstructive to any of the retail establishments on Railroad. More importantly, the Clinton Inn project, I'm highly in favor of it. They've continued to change their specifications in order to meet the town and council and our members of our community in order to compromise. This is one of those businesses that is going to drive more businesses downtown. We need to consider the future of this town, and right now, I'm seeing a burrito shop open up while there's multiple stores that are not occupied. Anybody that wants to invest in our town needs to be given the opportunity and needs to be given every opportunity to be successful, as well as my business. I doubled down. I could have moved anywhere in this county and had a successful bicycle store. I'm not sure if you realize, but I have my clients that came in today came from Montclair, they came from Westchester County, they're coming from all over the place. And I chose this town out of respect for everyone here and out of my love for the town. And I'm struggling, and every advantage I can get, I'm okay with the parking situation being occupied by the tent at Angelique. But this Clinton Inn project really needs to be taken very seriously as a way to move this town forward. Anything we can get, we need to take. Anyone that wants to invest in our town, we need to embrace them. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir, come on up, please. Okay, so, yeah, we'll get to you. It's not your turn yet. We'll get to you, though. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Matthew Lillen. I live at 30 Oxford Drive. I'm here to speak in support of the Clinton Inn project. I moved to town about 6 years ago, and I have to say I moved to Tenafly with my wife and my children for a number of reasons, but none of them was because of the downtown. It was despite the downtown. And so I think that there's a number of towns across this country that have closed storefronts, and I know that we have it here, and it can go, it's a slippery slope. So if we have businesses that want to invest in progress of our town, we really need to make sure that we're not known in Tenafly for being anti-business. We need to support a business that will have a multiplier effect on restaurants and other retail establishments downtown and foot traffic. And I think it's important that local government support that and not impede that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, gentleman over there first, and then you, sir. Tom, come on up.
Good evening, Tom Giordano, 12 George Street. I'm here representing the Marlboro Co-op Corporation on Franklin Street on the board number. I'm not here discussing the pros and cons of the Clinton Inn, and it will be next week, hear about the flooding.
Excuse me, we're not able to hear the speaker.
I'm going to go closer.
So what's that? Why don't you use this microphone? Yes, Tom, thank you.
Tom Giordano, 12 George Street. I'm here representing the Marlboro Co-op Corporation on Franklin Street. I'm here to talk about the flooding that we've had there recently. When Hurricane Ida came through, we lost approximately 7 to 80 cars. It was 2 to 3 feet of water. 2 units were flooded, and we have an underground stream, a brook that runs under our property, goes north under Westervelt, and the Tenafly Pediatrics is a brook on the east side of the railroad tracks that goes under the tracks and meets that. So a lot of stuff is funneled down that way. So I'm not a planner or anything, but I think something has to be done to address the flooding problems. Also, too, I think what would help the flooding problems is the Tenafly Brook needs to be dredged. Hasn't been dredged in about decades. I know years ago the Bergen County Mosquito Commission would come and do it. That would help the flow, because all that water there does drain into the Tenafly Brook. And also, I don't know anybody here on the council remembers, but 20 years ago on Dean Drive, they put 15 to 20 retention basins underground. They blocked the whole street. Now, I don't know whether they ever cleaned out. Are they full of silt, weeds, and dirt? I mean, that would also help in the flooding. And I think it's going to prevent some flooding, but the flooding we had after Hurricane Ida was unbelievable. And I think about 80 garages, all but 10 had 2 feet of water, and the people had a lot of storage and stuff. So anything that could help with the flooding and the flow of water would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. The gentleman over there, please. If you could please give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Robert Holmes. I'm the former general manager of the Clinton Inn. I'm out of New Milford, New Jersey. I just thought it important enough, even though I'm not with the hotel anymore, but the importance of this project, I felt I needed to come down again to express my support for this project. I think, we were fortunate enough when I came to the hotel during the start of the pandemic, the owners awarded us the opportunity to stay open and be a service to the community. And it was from the day I got there to the day I left, every guest would come in and just say how important the hotel is to their family, to the neighborhood. The events that we did, everyone that would come in had a social engagement there. And the fact that this is an opportunity to continue the hotel being a pillar of the community, I wanted to make a special trip just to come down and say, please support this project. I think it's wonderful for the town. It's just a pillar of the community, and I think it's a great opportunity for everyone to do the right thing and renovate the hotel and make it again the shining star of Tenafly. So I just wanted to say thank you for considering it.
Thank you, Robert. Yes, this gentleman, then the gentleman in blue. If you could use this microphone, please, sir.
Hi, good evening. Gal Davidovich, 9 Mayflower Drive, Tenafly, New Jersey. First, I echo what Shepard said about the tent in front of Cafe Angelique. It's an eyesore, and I'd agree that it'd be better for that to go. But more importantly, I'm here to speak about the Clinton Inn project and just voice my support on the record for the Clinton Inn project for all of the reasons previously stated in this forum in support of it, including tax revenue, foot traffic downtown, and revitalizing downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The gentleman in blue shirt.
Hi, my name is Kathy from Tenafly. I think you guys remember me.
Speaking of, thank you.
Yeah, 7 West Railroad Avenue, Tenafly. And I've been here a long time for my business, and I don't want to give up my business. Even pandemic time, I had to work almost every single day because it was hard to find the employees everywhere. And I didn't give up. I didn't want to close my business. And now, after 2 years, now we have to make up. And then now have a lot of problem for the parking. And a lot of my customers been complaining. And now they don't complain, they don't come. And a lot of walk-in customers, they don't even come. And when I call them, they say, oh, they came, but they had to all turning around. Your avenue is a lot of restaurant, and they say no parking. And then they say, oh, my mom had a problem with the leg, and she couldn't even walk. So she said, I'm so sorry, but I can't go anymore. So I keep losing, and the first week, second week, and the last time when I come here, they say they're gonna do like next day, whatever they're gonna call. And they call me a few days later, they say June 14th, we have to wait the restaurant license, like paperwork, whatever. And I was really really depressed and disappointed. And I have 25 years, I've been paying everything, I try my best, everything. I'm working really long hours a day, sometimes no lunch for the pandemic time. And now we have to make up. But a lot of problem with the parking, and a lot of my customers, I keep losing. And I don't understand why I have to wait more. And I'm really I'm losing my energy now. And my manager couldn't come today, so he helped me a lot for my business with whatever I need. He's gonna help me.
My name is Alex Ostro.
Hi, Alex.
Representing her in the Tenafly Nails at Southern West Railroad.
Can we speak closer to the microphone?
Just speak to the mic.
There's a problem with accessibility, parking, with the barricades that are in front of our business. They extend past the restaurant to our right, all the way past our store into another storefront. And there's people eating right outside of our door. And people don't want to walk past people eating. They don't want to walk past people waiting tables and bussing tables. And we don't have a problem with people eating on the sidewalk in front of their own restaurant, but I don't see how they get the benefit from us having limited accessibility and seeing our bottom line decrease in the last couple of months especially.
So where are we with this issue?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead, please.
We want the barricades removed, honestly,
Go ahead.
at least in front of our business.
Yeah, so the mayor has that approved, right now through November outdoor dining plan. For many restaurants or businesses, you have the outdoor dining. Right now, we sent a letter indicating certain documentation that have to be submitted, applications and certain insurance requirements that were due to the borough today. Tomorrow, with the intent of whoever didn't submit, pretty much they did not submit the paperwork that those barricades would be removed. Because we didn't want to go out multiple times to shift in parking spaces and so on and so forth. So the intent was the due date would be today, so tomorrow we'll see who submitted. As of right now, this afternoon, technically, anyone submitted. So we'll see who's going to go at the end of the day today. And then tomorrow, all those businesses to see who essentially tell them that one of those barricades would be removed.
I think regardless of whether they were applied for properly or approved,
Right.
in front of their
That's
own
not
business,
his
I
point.
don't have much of a problem with that. It's not my business. But when your business extends into front of my business and limits my accessibility and keeps people from coming to my
We
business,
can't hear anyone.
Okay, go ahead, Lauren. Did I have a comment?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna hear.
Work with you. We made an exception for Plaza Pet World and Photo Store on the opposite street. We removed, they said the same thing, we removed the barricades. And Jimmy, it would behoove us right now to remove the barricades and not allow that to be applied for any permit.
Right.
Because,
Okay.
again, we've done that for the other street, we need to be consistent here.
Okay.
This business has accessibility, their clientele, whether the senior clientele can't get there, whether they just don't want to go into dining, it's a valid business complaint, and I think at this point, we just remove that space with the permission of the chief and the traffic.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the resolution doesn't allow these to go in front of other people's businesses, is that correct?
Wendy's shaking her head.
Say, I can't hear you. Wait,
So-
one at a time. What?
Let Wendy talk.
So there's twofold. The resolution requires the businesses to submit their application with the diagrams, and moreover, for them to be in the public street, it's going to require a resolution of approval from the governing body. So in the effort of not having things go up, go down, go up, go down, the idea was to wait till the deadline to submit the paperwork. The paperwork comes in, everything's either going to be approved or not approved. So this will come before you all for approval of the resolution at the next meeting in order to approve anything that's in the public right-of-way, like such as the streets.
But no, hold it, let me just make I hear you, I just want to say something to the attorney, I'm not trying to interrupt you. Okay, so, but if the original resolution says if store A can have their outdoor dining in front of their store, but they can't have it in front of store B, correct, as we all understand it?
Remember, it's the public
right-of-way.
Public right-of-way is, by definition, public. The parking spots are not designed to be in front of a particular store. It's
Right, it doesn't line up perfectly, right.
It doesn't
But
line up.
but it's the space that's the difference,
But
right?
anything that's going to go into the street is going to require the council approval
Correct.
regardless.
That's what those reports.
Okay.
are
Correct.
supposed to
So that's
Right.
why you
Okay.
needed the diagrams.
Right. Go ahead, Lauren, please.
So, with all due respect to the process, we have a business owner here saying they are losing money, that there is an accessibility issue, we are supposed to be an ADA-friendly town, and I cannot stress that enough. We have already delayed them a month, and I hear you, I hear you. I would request that my council not delay them the whole second month now into July, and make a decision this evening to actually make a removal of the barriers in front of their business. If we have somebody who is an ADA, who needs an ADA or differently able, having to come to this business, that is an issue for our borough. Just leave it at that.
So,
If
go
I could
ahead.
just clarify, I don't believe there's anything blocking any
Right.
handicap parking spaces, and there's nothing blocking the sidewalk for ADA compliance. I just want to make sure that's clear.
So Jimmy, I'm sorry, go ahead, Julie, then I want to say something to Jimmy.
I wanted to maybe just cut to the chase. Is there a way that tonight the council has the ability to direct Jimmy to have the barrier removed in front of the parking of the nail store if it so chooses?
Well,
Is there that option?
Tomorrow, he looks at if he reads the resolutions tomorrow, and everything is very clear that you take up the space in front of your business, then he's able to do it already. And then we can just repair the issue. Go ahead.
Mayor, this may pose an issue in other locations. My recommendation, it would be, instead of choosing one location, on all or nothing.
So,
Because right now, that's the resolution permits.
well, that's different than what Wendy is saying, though.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
So, he's saying the resolution permits it, you're saying it doesn't.
It permits to be outside, but you would need neighboring, if it's going to spill over to a neighboring property owner, then you would need the neighboring property owner permission.
Okay, so let's resolve this tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay? Yeah, we'll resolve it tomorrow.
By resolving, you mean the barrier?
Yeah, in other words, they've got to look into the legalities of the way the resolution is written, and then if we can, we'll resolve it tomorrow. We understand what you're saying. We're all essentially in agreement with you.
We agree.
Yeah, now we just need to muddle through the paperwork part of it tomorrow. Okay? Do you have Jimmy's contact information? All right, Omar, why don't you provide them with Jimmy's email so he can communicate directly with the borough administrator? Thank you very much. You're welcome, sir. Ma'am, thank you.
I'm sorry for the inconvenience and all of that. Sorry.
You want to speak next? Come on up, Christine.
Christine Evron, 39 Leroy, Chamber of Commerce President. Just two things you might want to be aware of. They have a double barricade in front of Tavlin, so that you could remove one of the two barricades, that it would still be in front of Tavlin. It only takes up half of Tavlin's frontage, so it could actually be shifted down and still be in front of his store. You will then have one parking spot in front of the bicycle workshop, which may or may not be a problem from the police chief's point of view, but which is why I think it might not have originally been just in front of Tavlin's. The second problem you have, or issue you might want to be aware of, some businesses went to turn in their paperwork and were told by somebody at the borough that, oh, don't worry about it, you were grandfathered in, you don't need to turn.
That's not an accurate, they may have said that, but that's not an accurate statement of facts. Nobody's grandfathered in.
No, I understand that.
Right.
I was a little upset when they told me this afternoon, and it was late this afternoon, so,
Right.
and I called at 4:26 to talk to somebody. Everybody was packing up. I'm sorry.
No, so it's just important, I'm glad you brought it up.
Pointing out that
Right.
you're expecting to get the paperwork today for everybody, and the ball was dropped. They're now under the impression they don't need to turn in the paperwork, and of course, the resolutions aren't published after they're passed, so.
Well, I hope that you can help us clarify and communicate that with the business owners as president of the chamber.
A new deadline that I can get these all in by, it could be like 2 days away, they all know what they have to have.
If they're already issued, they have to submit.
Right.
They're here a few hours ago, they're issued.
Well, this was one that just told me this afternoon that she was.
Okay, so, right.
So maybe 2 days, Thursday is the day that you expect to.
All right, so have an offline conversation with Jimmy about the details of any specific store owner. You're welcome, thank you. Yes, ma'am, well, sir, and then ma'am, yes. Come up, sir, yes.
He's got a bunch on the sidewalk.
Okay, one on virtual? Okay, good, thank you. Sir, could you please state your name and your address for the record?
Hi, my name is Thomas Raimakis. I live on 20 Royden Road for 35 years, and I have a store, Yasu Santorini, on Washington Street for 4 years. Very short, I just want to say something about the barricades. Consul Michaels, he was very, very active with the chairs and the tables when it first was the COVID, nobody was busy and everything. I was against the barricades, I didn't put any chairs, I used the chairs, but I didn't put the barricades. The reason why I chose to do that is because of respect to my neighbors. They are next and right to me, they're different businesses, but they don't benefit from a barricade. I think it's going to be very difficult for some businesses to live without them, but we all need to understand that Tenafly roads, they are not made for too much space. So when we all came and we ran each store, we knew that the sidewalk is very limited. And that's my opinion about the tent also, I agree. And also I agree about the barricades. I'm here to support the Clinton Inn. I believe it's a very good project. I believe it's going to bring life, vendors, venues. It's going to change the Tenafly the way you would like to see it, the way that the people of Tenafly would like to see it. And I'm very, very excited to see, how it's going to come out. But I'm not here for that. When I open my store at 11 and I close at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I usually have the rush hour. And the rush hour is from 12 to 2 and from 5 to 7. Those are the two, for me, for my business hours that I usually work. So I'm here to be against the food vendors that you bring again into the project. I don't think that food vendors are good for Tenafly. Tenafly we don't have a hospital or a big corporation or factories, or if you want a commercial area where the food vendor can go, set up, for 2 hours, make the revenue and come out. For a fee of $100 versus my expenses that is about $300,000 to $400,000 a year, I find it unethical. I find it unfair to allow somebody to come in on the 2 hours that I'm busy, and I'm pretty much, many other businesses are busy on that time, and allow them to grab the revenue. I would like to do that. I would like to say to my employees, I'm not going to pay you for 8 hours or 10 hours. I'm only going to pay you for 4 hours, and we're going to make the money in those 4 hours. So please consider not to allow food vendors. I'm okay with the ice cream. My charity work is I do the baseball stand for those of you that you know about it. Unfortunately, the door is locked every time I'm there and there's no access, but that's a different story. So, the food vendors in Tenafly, I don't see the reason. I don't see why somebody can walk 7 minutes to Kreskill or 7 minutes to Tenafly to get a cup of coffee, sandwich, the gyro, the burrito, to whatever they want to do, a slice of pizza. So I would like for you not to continue with those food vendors, because I see on the page 4, you also have special permissions. But to me, when I see the word special permission, it can be anything. So please don't open the door to the food vendors.
May you see something else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, please, in the back, and then we'll come back to you. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Adi Sodri. I live in 8 Laurel Avenue. First of all, I wanted to say that I support the Clinton Inn project. I'm here to speak about the situation in the Tenafly schools after what happened in Texas and a lot of other terrible, horrible events, and the sharp increase in the mass shooting events. I want to know, and I don't get any answers from anybody, what do they do to guard our children? How can it be that every day I go around mom's school and I see my daughter plays outside when nobody looks, no officer, no fence, anybody can just walk in and shoot children? And yesterday I got a call from a friend of mine that went to the high school and saw 2 doors open and just got inside to the hallway. He was 7 minutes inside. Just to remind you that Adam Lenza slaughtered 26 children and teachers in only 5 minutes. How can it be? And I know that because I start to read the protocols of the Board of Education, they sat with an experts, security experts, everybody told them, put police officers in school. In a lot of places, I know that in private schools, for example, today, Solomon Schechter wrote a letter to the parents that they will put 3 police officers. Do their children's life is more important than my children's life? So, what is going to happen? We asked the Board of Education, and they told us that they have already a budget, but the safety of the children should be beyond every budget consideration. So, I wanted to know, me and a lot of friends of mine, how am I going to send my children to school next year when nobody is guarding them? Locked doors, intercoms, everything, okay, it's nice. It's nice to have. But first of all, the children are playing outside a lot of time during the school hours. How can it be that there is nobody to protect them? I will be happy to get answers.
So I'll give you one comment, and first off, I can't address anything that's going on with securities in the schools because I don't have the accurate answer for you there, right? At the high school, we have a SRO, we have a police officer who's a regular, uniform Tenafly police officer who is at the high school at all times. In terms of the 4 elementary schools and the middle school, one of the things that's been going on for several years now is that the police chief sends patrol cars with officers in them that are parked at the schools at different points in the day, at different hours, based on what he chooses to do. So I can't speak to whether at any given time you see police cars around the school, but that's a normal operating function of our police department now, to park at schools at different times. So there's a small piece of an answer for you in terms of one of the things we're doing with our police department in the schools.
But if there's not a fence and a specific entrance and exits, which in every spot like this sits a police officer during the whole time, then it means nothing. It's so risky. It's like gambling. I mean, who knows when will he come? And I started during the morning times where it's very difficult for me because my business is not here, it's in Israel, so I have the different sense of the hours. It's so hard for me. But I'm sending them to schools, my 3 daughters, and I'm just shaking. So in the last few days, I'm doing patrols around, and most of the time, nobody's there. Everybody can just get in. And even though the doors are locked, let's say nothing will happen when children are outside. But even when the doors are locked, it's not a problem to just come, shoot the window, and that's all. If there isn't an eye and a fence, then who will guard our children? How can we take this risk?
Have you had this conversation, raised this issue with the Board of Ed?
Yes. Okay. And I didn't get answers. If I would get answers, I wouldn't spend my and your time here.
We'll remind them that you were here this evening with what you had to say. Yes, and the other parents. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. No, that's okay. Yes. Oh, go ahead, Jeff, and then the gentleman in the back.
I would appreciate the comments so much. I'm a teacher not in Tenafly, but in another district, and let me tell you, it's on my mind. I have lunch meet with second graders 2 times a week. We're outside because the state mandates it. Phys ed classes are held outside, and I get it. I wish I had a simple answer for you. Obviously, fencing would help, but fences are not going to keep bullets out of them.
Did you surround the school?
Yes. I made that suggestion to the school where I work, because I don't have any way of protecting these children any better than anyone else when I'm standing there, and it breaks my heart. I have to tell you, as a teacher, it breaks my heart as well as for parents. So that's an ongoing discussion in towns, schools, everywhere. And it will be a discussion that should not just be talked about, needs to lead to action. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Sir, come up to this microphone here. Yes, then you'll be.
Steve Rogers, 11 Glenwood Road in Tenafly, for the past 22 years, and I am also the Chief Executive Officer of the Kaplan JCC, also in Tenafly. I'm here tonight both personally and professionally to voice support for the Clinton in Development project. I am not going to go through all the various reasons that we've heard already tonight, other than to say I agree with them and adopt them. The only point that I will make is that the #1 driver of revenue for my business, the Kaplan JCC, is membership. We have about 8,300 members, individuals, right now, and as you can imagine, most of them are in Tenafly. So if anyone could benefit from the rejection of the project leading to dense housing, it would be the Kaplan JCC. Despite that, we think that we are better off, the town is better off, our community is better off with this project. Thank you.
Thank you. And the young lady in the back, all the way in the back row, come on up.
You always wanted to work at the Price is Right.
What?
You always wanted to work at the Price is Right.
Come on down.
Come on down.
How are you this evening?
Can you hear me? Because I'm wearing a mask. I'm
Yeah.
trying to be good. Mary Salpukis, 85 Hillside Avenue. I'm a very happy senior in Tenafly, as you can imagine, with the senior center and the senior bus. I also wanted to commend the council, or whoever it was, who got the brilliant idea of the orange flags. And this may not seem like a big deal to many people, but if you, after 65 years of driving, still drive, walking is important. And the crosswalks that have the orange flags, I just thought it was brilliant. Paint at a small cost for a great deal of security. So I don't know who to thank, but it's just been wonderful. I do have a proposal for another site. I don't know how many there are. The top of Hillside Avenue has a sidewalk that goes up the hill, We know that in town, Washington Street crosses railroad tracks, and then becomes Hillside Avenue, goes up 3 blocks to Engle Street. When you get to the top of the sidewalk, at Engle, you have a blind curve on your left, and traffic that travels very fast, swinging around or going across, and you also have cars coming up the hill and making a left turn, and there is no safe way to get to the other sidewalk. There's no sidewalk on your left. You have to cross the street to go north or south. So I thought the cost, this is ideally the cost of a can of paint, for a crosswalk, and some orange flags. And I also just would suggest that you physically go there if you haven't been there to see what it's like. And when you walk 1 block south, you come to the intersection with Clinton. And there are crosswalks. Instead of being able to cross directly south, you're expected to make 3 crossings. 1 across this way, 1 across this way, and 1 across this way. So crossing 3 streets, for me, is much less safe than making 1. So a little paint, and I hope not too much expense or controversy, but I just thought that what somebody was really thinking and did a great job. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I just want to say, we had the answer on exactly what
Yeah.
you're asking for the request.
Mhm.
Very good request.
Martin, please come up. Go ahead, Benny.
Thank you, Barry. Nice to see you again. As far as the credit that came back for a Girl Scout project.
For a Girl Scout project, right? Hey, that was a Girl Scout project. They get the credit for it. Thank you, Vanessa.
I am Martin Hughley, 56 West Belt Avenue in Tenafly. I've been a member of town for now almost 58 years. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Clinton Inn project. I think it is nothing but a win-win. I think in a few ways, I think that would be a real sort of landmark for Tenafly, and it'd be the beginning of a great project to redo the downtown area. We've heard a lot of people discussing the redoing of downtown. I think Tenafly's had many opportunities as we look back, the old A&P idea, the old redoing the train line idea, and I think this is just a pebble in the water of what's going to happen in Tenafly as far as the growth of Tenafly, the cleaning up of Tenafly. I just know from my experience in my business, Tenafly is not the town it used to be. It's not the kind of town you let people drive through. And I think something like this would be a great way for Tenafly to grow again and become a very prosperous town again. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Jason Tuvell, also at 12 Maple Street, but soon to be at 82 Joyce. So it's kind of funny that Chef was there earlier. We're like in a crossfire here on our houses. So I rarely come to these meetings as a resident. So if I'm here, it's obviously important to me, and I rarely get a night off. So I wanted to talk a little bit and support the Clinton project. So first, I want to thank the council, the planning board, the board's professionals, and the developer on working on the plan. I think in its current form, it really represents smart growth, smart planning in a collaborative effort, and that's really important. So I want to thank all the parties, because it takes all the parties to make a plan work. I don't want to repeat all the reasons, although I will give some of them as to why I think that this project is critical for the town's growth and the future of the town. We have a great downtown, we have great businesses there, as everybody's aware, but the infrastructure needs help. We need a catalyst-type building, a prominent building that's going to start the redevelopment process there to help the current businesses that are there and help additional businesses come in, and also help the residents further enjoy the downtown. I have 2 kids. One's in 4th grade, one's in 6th grade. They love walking downtown. They love going to get yogurt, go to the restaurants. This is just going to improve that atmosphere. You've already acknowledged that this is an area in need of redevelopment. based on the planning board's determination on their blight study and the council's affirmation of that. So this is the logical next step to go forward with this project. So just some of the benefits that I see from this project. First and foremost is the redevelopment of the hotel and the rehabilitation of the hotel. I think it's really nice to have a hotel that people want to go to in town. I think it's a really good meeting place for people. That's number one. Number two is you're going to get affordable units out of this project. That's going to help the town meet its need. But also affordable units are just an inherently beneficial thing. That's such a positive aspect to the community. Helps communities stay diverse. Really a positive aspect to it. That's the second. Also is green infrastructure. You walk that site right now, you have basically impervious surfaces. You have an older building that doesn't have stormwater management. The developer is going to have to comply with the new stormwater regs that were developed back in March of 2021. And I saw in the redevelopment plan, in the revised one that was drafted by Burgess Associates, I thought it was really good in the sense that they gave green infrastructure incentives to the developer. Green roof, pervious pavement. I think that's good planning on behalf of the borough to get out in front of these critical issues. So you have a good balance here of smart development with also protection of the environment, which I think is important, specifically based on how I forgot the superstorm or hurricane, but how Ida affected the borough back in September of last year. Although I was okay with the height originally proposed, I did see that there was a height reduction, so I think that, again, good compromise between the borough and the developer working hard on this project. I also thought it was interesting, and I don't know if anybody mentioned this or picked up on this, but there were specific landscaping requirements by the brook based on DEP requirements and also using native species. I thought that was really a nice idea that was put into the redevelopment plan. You're going to have EV charging stations pursuant to the new state law. And just from a pure economic standpoint, as a taxpayer, you're getting a clean rateable here. You're getting no manufacturing, there's no noise, there's no pollution that's going to come from this. So you get a very clean rateable with no impacts on the schools or the education system where the taxes would go up in that regard. You're getting the affordable units and you're getting some resiliency built in to the project. So all in all, I think it's a win-win. And again, I commend the borough and all of its professionals working with the developer to come up with a plan that I really think works. So I hope that the borough votes in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, come on up, Sarah.
Levinson, 282 Woodland Street. Jason asked me if he should go first or I should go first. I should have gone before him. I think everything that he said, he spoke so eloquent about the project. I wrote a letter back to you guys in March 22nd of 2022. Sorry, just stating some of the facts and some of the important reasons why I think it's important that we develop this project. I've been a resident of Tenafly for 22 years. I have listened and supported most of you guys as you've become members of the council, and each and every one of you has stated to me why it's important to move forward. Each and every one of you during your campaigns have stated that you will support moving forward, and I think it's now time that you live up to your promises. I know some of you have businesses elsewhere and have chosen not to be in Tenafly for your business. Regardless, you are a Tenafly resident, and it's time for you to support the town. In addition to everything else that Jason and Martin have said, there's no downside in us investing in our town and letting somebody come in and do the right thing for us. I think you guys really bear the responsibility of our town to make sure that we can move forward and that we don't pass up on a project that has again come to us and that could only benefit us. So I really hope that you all take your job very serious tonight and that you support this project. And I commend the builders for coming to the table and compromising with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else here would like to speak? No one in the, Omar, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak?
Yes, I have Evelyn for hand raise.
Who does?
Evelyn.
Emma?
Evelyn.
Evelyn. Are you there, Evelyn? Evelyn? Is she on mute? Yes, yes, if you speak up a little bit, we can hear you.
Thank you. This is Evelyn Greenberg, 167 Leroy Street. I'm disappointed that there's actually so few people that seem to be aware of this project. I speak to people in town, local residents really don't seem to be aware of this project. And I would personally appreciate a fact sheet of what is proposed and come to the meeting with a fact sheet and perhaps questions. Of course, we want to support the development of Tenafly, but there is simply not enough of a representation of the entire town. This meeting, and I think that should be noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. Just for the, just so everyone understands in terms of communication, I think this particular project has been in front of the planning board and the council in public meetings for almost 2 years now. We have sent communications to all the residents within a certain distance individually about this project that live near where this project will take place. So there has Twice we've done it. Twice we've notified the residents about it. So there has been a fair amount of communication and open public meetings on this topic for the past 24 months.
It's been very difficult to find out. I apologize. When the meeting was, even for this evening, you had multiple evenings that were changed at the last minute. So it's been hard for people to be aware of when they should show up because this has been changed the date multiple times. I'm sorry. It's Judith Lowe.
Okay, thank you, Judith. Pardon me?
I also have a question, which I'm not clear on. I think
Judith, if you could just please, can you please give your address, please? You want to answer the tax question? She's asking if there's a tax abatement.
So what's on for tonight is just a redevelopment plan. I can't answer as to whether there'll be the request for a payment in lieu of taxes or not. That would come later in the process, and it might be something that...
So the developer hasn't asked for a payment.
What I can tell you as of now is the developer has not asked the borough for that as of yet. That's all I can say at the moment.
Would we be subsidizing a private equity group, which is a for-profit institution?
No.
No, we're not subsidizing anything.
No. You would not be subsidizing anybody.
Well, tax abatement is...
I think you're confusing maybe two separate items. You're thinking of a tax abatement to be reduced taxing. What happens or what is available is a payment in lieu of taxes, which is a different calculator. However, taxes are still being paid. The way it's calculated may be different as far as the impact to the schools, but keeping in mind this project has no school children.
Right, but it affects the traffic of the people taking their children to school in the cars.
Okay, this is not a debate here. Okay, all right, okay, so do you have any further? Go ahead.
If you have approved the height for this building, what are the implications for the next commercial spaces in terms of their height? Do you understand my question?
I do. If tonight the council decides to move forward with adopting the proposed zoning for this particular site, it is only effective for this particular site. It does not implicate any other site in town.
Wouldn't another site have an easier time?
Okay, so this is public, ma'am. We're not going to go through a litany of questions. We're going to cover this discussion later on in the meeting. So do you have any other comments you'd like to make? Then we're going to move on to the next person. What did she say? Yes. Okay, thank you. Are Omar, anyone else out there on? Ellen, would you like to speak? Ellen? It looks like Ellen's not responding. Anyone else, Omar?
Okay, so the Gabrielle Marcus with her hand raised.
Gabrielle? Gabrielle, would you like to speak, please? Hi, if your name and address, please. Yes, you're,
24 North Freeport.
okay. Go ahead.
So, I apologize for being redundant, as I have heard people say things similar to what I'm about to say, but I think obviously it's important to know that there's a tremendous amount of support for this project. So, I would just like to say that as a resident of this town for over 6 years, I've really seen the retail and sort of a lifestyle decline. When I moved here, there was a children's boutique, there was boutique in town, there was more to do. I could spend the afternoon in town and have lunch and walk around and feel like I had an afternoon. Now I find myself taking my children to Englewood or to Windward or even to Manhattan. And someone with a future kindergartner in mom's school and a future third grader, I would really love to be able to spend more time in my own town. And I feel like this project is going to be the trigger, if you will, for hopefully future development in this town and attracting more retail, more restaurants, more excitement to our town. And by the time my children are in middle school, in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I hope to see them not hanging out at CVS like I see children doing every day. And I hope to see places that they can go and I can go and places I can spend my afternoon and spend my money in our town. And, again, I said this is a last meeting. Don't forget to give towards the amount. I do not see a line of people waiting to throw money at our town. I think that this offer, this proposal is wonderful. I think it's generous. And honestly, as a taxpayer, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for choosing our town. And I'm really excited about the prospect of seeing how this trust in the discussion of this capital and this project. So thank you to everyone. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Omar? Jeremy, please.
I just wanted to say thank you to the developer for bringing this project to our town, and I have 2 children also, 2 children in Long Elementary School, and really appreciate the improvements that they're trying to make to our town. It's much needed project for us, and I approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, Omar? Any other, people who'd like to speak? Is there someone there? Who is? Max? Go ahead, Max. Name and address, please.
Yes. Yes. All right, my name is Max, 148 North Avenue. It's very interesting to listen to everybody or say, thank you developer, thank you developer, thank you developer, as they were close to saying the same thing. It's very interesting. But it's okay, we are going to say that, might as well say it. The project we have is a good project. Nobody minds getting the kids that need to be redeveloped, and nobody minds to have another senior apartment for senior people in town. Now, all this argument that having apartments for the senior near the things that he is going to redevelop at downtown, it's not true. Kids are not going to go and hang out at the senior center or in the meeting, and because it's not going to affect the downtown. The big issue over here is not that we want to have a development, because we don't want to have a development, is if the development is the leadings of people who are getting this a real development. And the only issue is that the developer is looking for leads that are waiting on what we have in town. It's a sort of 6-story building, which will be higher than it's new. It's allowed by our zoning, and even though, it's amazing to see the planning board first having a 9-story building, or saying that's practically within our zoning rules, and now it's a 6-story building, it's still on top of something. We'd like to have the development, but let's make sure that first of all, we like the rules and they are within the height that our development is going to require. And that can exaggerate with downtown street hanging out at PBS. If you have a located hang out in your apartment building, I would be very glad to go over there and have that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Omar, next. Ellen? Can you, Ellen? You can state your name and your address, please. Is she on mute? Ellen, can you hear me or no? Okay, is there anyone else there, Omar? No other hand. Okay, is there someone else out there, Omar? Sharon, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Sharon.
Great, yeah, I'm at 89 Story Lane. I'm just calling in to voice my support for the redevelopment project at the Minden Senior Center. I do live very close to the Minden and have been in town for over 19 years. I originally moved here from the West Coast and have neighbors here in Minden over the years for every single event. In the past, I'd say 5 to 8 years, my family has not been able to stay there. It just has not been a good option, and so it's been very hard to find some places that were, a good option, that were very, very close by and convenient. And I think that having that and then be redeveloped and having a building next to it that, puts a nice footprint as you enter Tenafly will really help to bring in, a lot more people to, what was and can be a beautiful, quaint town. So I'm really in support of it, and I just think it will really attract, people and businesses, because there will be so many more people coming to stay, in town, to meet your family. I think that will really help to spur some traffic in town. So I'm really in support of it.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Hold on a second, Omar, who do we have here? Pardon me? Judith, are you there? We have your name and address? Oh, Judith already spoke? Okay, so who else, Omar? Can you please say your name and your address, please?
Yeah, I'm at 49 Elm Street, Tenafly, New Jersey.
Okay.
My name is...
Go ahead. We can't hear you.
So I just wanted to comment about the renovation project. It was definitely came out of the blue, and a lot of us weren't really informed and clear about what the construction plan was and how it was going to impact the area. Given just the proximity of my street to it, I felt like we should be well informed.
Okay, thank you.
I had another incident that occurred in my house on my street where my father, he opened his car door. The traffic on the street is quite busy. People kind of speed up down the street. There's not even a yellow line over there. And someone went up hitting the door of the car as he was kind of swinging open. So there's kind of a personal history of this kind of traffic already that's kind of mismanaged in the vicinity of the building.
Okay, all right, thank you. Omar, anyone else who wants to speak?
Sure. I have Mr. Dan Ross in his hand raised.
Ann?
Dan.
Dan, go ahead, give us your name and address, please.
Okay, good evening. My name is actually Michelle Ross. I, along with Dan Ross, live at 140 Hackening Drive. And I've been a resident of Tenafly since 2006. Maybe 2007, actually. We lived in several properties in town. We love the town. It has not grown or evolved in a noticeable way since we've been here. And a project like this can not just reinvigorate the aesthetic of the town, but provide economic resources and support to many of the other businesses, and also attract new thriving young businesses, which is something that's missing from our town. And just on a personal note, I am not from this area. I have a lot of family out of town, and not one of them has ever stayed at the Clinton Inn. In fact, they stay at other properties in Englewood and give their business to those surrounding communities because the hotel is not, you know, a vibrant, thriving type of place where you want to put your family and friends that come to visit. So I think a project like this is going to be instrumental in changing the landscape of our town, you know, on a variety of levels. And it would be a real shame not to support this project.
Thank you. Omar, anyone else?
Are there any co-home users?
That's it? And no one? Speak now, because we're going to close public comment, if you want to make a comment. Okay.
Yay.
Okay, who is this? Okay, Evelyn, go ahead, your name and address, please.
Evelyn Greenberg, 167 Leroy Street. I am concerned about the presence of police for traffic. I'm concerned about the construction that will be taking place. I am also concerned that the senior center actually may evolve into regular apartments, which will affect our school enrollment. And I feel that these matters should be a matter of public discussion of a much larger nature. I don't think that advising people whether it's legal, whether it's legally, we are responsible for telling people within certain mileage, certain distance from the proposed project to inform them, because the rest of the town should be better informed. And I think that Jim's point about tax implications especially make it important for the information to be distributed to every home in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Omar?
Are there any co-home users? Please speak now. No, Mayor.
Okay, it doesn't appear as if there's no one to speak. Christine, there's no one to speak. Manali, are you there, Manali? Okay, so if there's no more people pardon me? Right, there's another public comment period, she'll be able to speak then. Okay, we're going to close public comment. Omar, is there a hand on the screen?
Oh, still.
Okay, she already spoke.
No,
She didn't, so Ellen, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we need your name and your address, please.
My name is Ellen Kuhn. I'm at 37 Park Street in Tenafly. I agree with all the people who are supporting redevelopment on that site. Something there. It's been an eyesore. But I do have several concerns. One is the density. It will be, I believe, the tallest building in town. Once it's built. I'm concerned about the environmental impact. Mr. Giordano spoke about flooding along that. There was some reference to green building and permeable paving, but it sounds like there's likely to be more space than there is now. Okay, well, I haven't seen the plans. I'm concerned about traffic and safety. As far as I know, at least one person has lost their life on that course several years ago. It's a dangerous intersection. It could be problematic for any new construction there or new development there. I hope these concerns will be taken into consideration, and I do think that as Evelyn Greenberg mentioned, it was very hard to find out that this project was even a proposal. I know the developer followed the procedures to notify people within 200 property line, but most of the neighbors to that site are resistant. So I think the residents actually had a heads up on this, and that is also a concern of mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Omar, any other members of the public who appear to want to speak?
With his hand raised.
Okay, go ahead. Jenko? Yes, Jake.
I just wanted to voice my very strong support for the project. I've really heard a lot of the reasons already, so I'm not going to restate them all. I did also want to mention that I think the downside of not doing this is it could be quite negative for folks, especially given that I think the alternative would be development of further housing. I heard a lot of heard a lot of comments earlier about negatives to taxes and all those other things. And I think if this were redeveloped as housing, I think it would be kind of negative in terms of overcrowding schools and all that other stuff. So it seems like it's a no-brainer project to support. And if you don't support it, it seems like there's a lot of negatives that could come, and that might not be very well understood. But anyway, I just wanted to voice my very strong support for the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Omar, anyone else out there looks like they want to speak?
Hi, this is Unali Lalan from 711, located at 29 County Road.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have something that I want to share. And as everything knows that I'm the owner of 711, serving in this business for last 11 years, and I'm very happy to be the part of the community. I really support the project for the development of the town, but I do have my concern for the food truck going around in the town because that is really affecting my business. Lately, I have seen the food trucks going around, and we were wondering what's going around with my business because I absolutely see very few customers in my big business hours. I know there are food trucks going around in the town, and they are near the schools and all, but my business picks up and people are picked up dropped at the school before and after the school hours. And when we see the food trucks who are in the town, who are not actively there for 24/7 or like us, serving the community for the 365 years, it is very painful to our business when we see no customers coming in, and especially affecting my coffee business. I see the food trucks being parked at near the Honda showroom. They go in at the stop and shop, and people getting lined up and buying their coffee from there. That is seriously affecting my business. So I do not know how to say it, but I definitely have a graph that I can show when the food trucks were around. And our business is really being hurt at that time.
Okay, so thank you for your comments, and so that you know, we're going to look into that, because that one coffee truck is not allowed to operate in any of the downtown areas. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow and have a conversation with them. And if that's happening, we'll put a stop to it. Yeah, no problem. Okay, we understand. Thank you. Understood. We hear that. We'll take care of that one. You're welcome. Omar, any other comments? So good. Okay, so we're going to close public comment and move on to the resolutions. Council members have any questions about the resolutions? I'm going to make one comment here so everyone knows. The second to last one, confirmation for the library board. Megan Dugan resigned, so we thank her for her service. And Julie Lev, who her and her husband and 2 kids have lived in Tenafly a long time, And I know the kids have done the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, the whole routine. And she's been a teacher for 30 years. And, you know, she's been bringing her 2 boys to the library 2 and 3 times a week for the past 15 years. So, you know, I'm recommending her as an excellent addition, Julie Leb, to the library board. Yes, Jeff?
The resolution reads, recreation.
Yes, it reads, there's a typo, it's the library board, though.
Just want to make sure before we vote.
Yes, we're going to vote for the library board, yes. Yes, we're going to put her on the right board.
And the agenda's correct.
Yes, yes. Yes, sir. I didn't see your hand, sorry.
So there's a couple of resolutions that letter E and letter F on our list. That's actually 190, 22, 191, and 22, and 92. That I just think that the language in here needs to be adjusted a little bit. To state that the Director of Recreation's responsibility shall be modified and not due to, and it's due to a restructure of the department rather than anything else. And I just want the take us to vote on it in that form and follow that as well too. If we want to give a reason for why the Assistant Recreation Director is responsible for being modified, which again is for that.
So you're suggesting we replace expanded with modified and restructured?
Modified, no, but to, in number 191, to remove the reason as the retirement of the services director, because that's not the only reason I have to get money. It's a restructure.
So why don't you address those,
Right,
Counselor?
so-
Yeah, I understand, we
So
understand
the
what you're
whereas
saying.
clause would stop
Right.
after the word expanded, and that's where the period would go.
Good change.
Yeah.
Or that's where the colon would go.
Right, correct.
And that would be the same for Resolution 22-192.
Where that
Oh,
sentence is not
That
there.
one is actually
Right.
correct. So they'll both read the same way.
Right.
If there's a reason necessary, then it's the restructure.
So, hold on a
There's no
second,
reason
let me make those notes. So we're making edits to 191,
To 191 and to,
okay,
this is the back
190.
part of paper, right?
That's okay. Okay. So 191 and 192 are going to be as edited.
192 doesn't need editing, only
So-
191 and 197.
Okay. Okay, that's my notes, 191, 197. Okay, any other questions about the resolutions from the council? No? Okay. All right, we're going to move on. Any questions about the public hearings from the council?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor and I were talking, I know last time we wanted to speak about the mobile beverage licenses, and we were told we didn't speak at the right time. I assume this is the right time to talk about it?
Table, the floor is yours.
Dr. O'Connor, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, we had a few questions, but my first one had to do with, within this revised ordinance, do we have a situation on a time limit? That's what I wanted to know, that is this beverage truck, if it goes to a property, is there a certain amount of time that it is not supposed to stay past?
Not as currently written.
I think that might be something.
I'm sorry, let me clarify. How long they can be parked or during the times they can operate?
Know how long they could be there.
The overall times for operation is there, but not how long they can be at any one location, no.
Yeah, so that like raises some alarm bells to me if we don't have some parameters on that, because I understand if I've been assured that they can operate within the downtown and compete with our other businesses, and that's very good. However, I'd be concerned if they could, my understanding is that they can go to like, they could drive the streets, right? And go to someone's home and provide beverage and snacks at someone's home. So my only concern was, what if that turns into a person who wants them in their driveway for like 4 hours or something? Is there any, that was my worry. Is that not possible? Or is that something that we might have to amend within this?
So that would require an amendment. There would be an additional clause in here that would require an amendment.
Yeah, I just think we might want to avoid that before it could possibly be an issue if someone just has it parked in their driveway. I don't know, like Jeff's always the lawyer who's saying to address it in advance, I'm guessing.
Well, and also, if somebody wants them parked in their driveway, they can apply for a special approval to have food trucks on their property. That's
separate from this ordinance, right? This whole idea is the roving thing, right?
Under this ordinance, but it requires a general event application through the Borough Administrator's office.
Right, so within this, we know the food truck that's kind of, might take advantage of this is, so if they do beverage and snacks, and they're going around to different streets, I just wasn't sure if we don't have something within here that says, hey, keep moving, every, I don't know, my gut says no more than 30 minutes at, if it's envisioned like this is house to house type of thing versus, oh, it's in someone's plumbing supply, parking lot. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they're kind of two different things. So that's where my head was at with that question. Does that make sense what I'm saying, Jeff?
Okay, go ahead, Vanu. I see you. Go ahead. Go on.
So I've had a food truck at my house. In the pandemic, these candy trucks came, and they came for birthday parties for my kids, for example. We parked it in my driveway. The party probably lasted 3 hours. They're small kids. They served hot chocolate out of it. It was there for a particular purpose, for a party, for a particular event at my own personal home. I don't want to word this so much so that somebody cannot entertain in their own home with a truck coming to their own property. At some point, we are over-regulating, personal property and behavior. I absolutely agree, and thank you, for being here, some of our business owners, that I don't want the major competition downtown. I don't want the trucks being, parked in our downtown and directly competing. But if I want to hire a candy truck to come sit in my driveway for a birthday party, I also don't want this ordinance to prohibit that. So at some point, we do need to understand that permissions have to be sought. So anybody who wants to come in and do that, they have to ask permission right now, special approval, correct? And we as a council can look at a situation and say, well, we don't think that you should be selling off your property to all your neighbors, but maybe it's an event for your own personal, private party. But again, there's a process in here that we have to remember we've just created so that we can assess that and be reasonable about this.
So, from what I just heard from Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, your fear is that the ordinance says you can park outside the business district from 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Your fear is they sit there all day for that whole stint without any movement. They just sit there, slowly create their location.
Yeah, that's my concern.
They're not doing that.
Every day.
It won't make any money. Right. Go ahead, Jeff.
It won't make any money.
Won't make any money.
But it's your spot.
Right.
It becomes your spot.
Jeff, go ahead.
Because it's your spot. But you might be like, if I pick a spot,
So-
it becomes.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So I think the way to address both concerns, because they're great concerns, we need to make it part of the form that it might have. we somehow get in the language. But part of the form is, all right, I'm having the food truck at my property, that's your application. 7:30 in the morning, 4, and then they have to specify the length of hours. For 2 hours, for 3 hours, whatever they need it, there has to be some flexibility, but they have to specify the hours. And since this has to be approved, if they say, I want to be there from 7:30 to 2:30 the entire time, it's usually say no. Right?
Or ask them why they need that.
Or that's why they need that. But at least that, if it's on the form, if it's on the form, then you are absolutely correct. They could be there every day from 7:30 to 2:30 nonstop.
Because only one form would be required for, it's not like they're doing a form a day, right? One form could be covering how many, like the year? Did I understand?
Yeah, I mean, there's a practical aspect to it. If someone, the truck parks in front of one of the elementary schools to sell coffee to the parents that are dropping off kids in the morning, that's like a 20 to 30 minute window and everybody goes away.
That's what I was assuming it was for, but I'm just trying not
Coffee truck is not going to sit there for 6 hours staring at the walls.
Yeah, I just don't want to go into an ordinance unless we lock this up now, that's all. I mean, I agree, that's what it's for, I'm supportive.
Go ahead.
I want to take a step back and just look at the way this kind of a mobile food truck would operate. It almost seems like it would operate more like a New York taxi, going around town, again, some people and buy coffee. As opposed to being like an Uber, you call them, you tell them where you want them to be at a specific time, and then you purchase your beverage to share. And I don't necessarily like the taxi aspect of it, where they can just roll around and you pull them in. Just see and that's the cost. Whereas if you call somebody, and to Councilman a point about having an event at your house, having a truck sit there and service your BlackBerry for a period of time. We do have event licenses.
Right.
And for that, you're not going to have a birthday every day. You're going to have a birthday, and you'll know in advance generally when this will be.
Right.
There should be the ability to do an event and request an event. Right?
Within this ordinance?
Either within this ordinance or separately. There
Or separate, right.
ways of doing events, and we could put it into another ordinance that handles that. But this idea of the truck just kind of driving around wherever it wants and basically all over town and just selling coffee randomly I don't think that's appropriate. That's not something I think that Tenafly residents, if they knew what was being considered, would be interested in.
One thing I want to just say about that, and then if I'm wrong,
yes,
is the issue of I don't have any clarity on that this coffee truck is delivering cups of coffee to people's house on demand. It's kind of like, but we have, and I've got the credit card bills to prove it. Uber Eats is showing up at every house in Tenafly on a regular basis. But I don't believe that, and I can't speak for them obviously, but I believe what they're doing is they're parking at a spot for a period of time, and then they move on.
Well, we should find a way to structure the ordinance so that it says that we have to have specific locations, and that you will be at, as opposed to just kind of randomly, going wherever you want. So it's two things. One is you can have an event, where you form, or some ability to have an event at a house, and for that be 5. And 2, you have them fill out pre-determined locations that they will be at within the town. And they stick to those specific places.
Go ahead, Lauren, and then I want to comment on that. Go ahead, Lauren.
So we are on the second reading tonight, and I would behoove us to get an ordinance on the book tonight. And I want to read what the current ordinance language says. In the form of the application, you are required to put name, address, description, etc., why what your nature of the business is, the days of the week, the hours of the day, and the hours of the day during which the activity will be conducted. So here's my suggestion to our council. Rather than get in the weeds on this ordinance, let's consider passing it because we know we need some protections here. And I would ask permission, if you wouldn't mind, to have Jeff as our, very good wordsmith, maybe work with Jimmy on the exact form and then pass it around to us so we can edit the form to ensure that all of these concerns are addressed. But I really do think on this one, we're very much in the weeds. There's a million scenarios we can come up with food trucks. I know our concern originally was to make sure we have something on the books.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and we'll handle it administratively. It sounds like we're all on the same page.
No, we're
And it
not.
doesn't, we have to adopt it by mayor and council. So we have to approve the form.
The only concern is that, you have these, you adopt the ordinance, and, it won't have the proper form, and then once it's adopted, you really won't, focus on that. So we need to have the structure in place before we adopt.
But I'm saying it's there. I think it's there in the general language, and if you guys want to nitty-gritty the form, we have that opportunity,
Okay.
and we have the opportunity upon adoption.
So Julie, go ahead.
Yeah,
then.
so I just wanted to say that Councilman Park had kind of translated what my fear was. I didn't hear from Wendy. Is that able to be addressed, that concern of mine, that it parks in one place for all those hours before we vote on it? The spot to go and meet that taco truck or meet that beverage.
So the very definition that we have in the proposed ordinance is that it goes from place to place, that it's mobile. Obviously, how long it's in each place is subject to interpretation, but if it's going to go park in one spot all the time, that's not...
But it could be there 4 hours. Could be there 4 hours around lunchtime every day.
Additionally...
Right. Any way to address that?
Right. So as Councilwoman Dayton was saying, under the form of application, they're supposed to also provide a description of the nature of the business. If the nature of the business is to take a phone call as to where someone's going to be, go there, park, serve the person who called them there, and then stay parked for anyone else who wants for a certain amount of time, that is the one application I have seen so far. That was the nature of the business. That's not to say that everybody would have the same nature of business, but that's what was provided in the application type letter of seeking the forms. That was the type of description given. So anything is obviously possible with a different vendor, with someone else coming in. And anything is possible to be written into your ordinance, that you guys have the opportunity to decide what you want there. I will say that would be an amendment. That's not something that could be adopted tonight. It would require an amendment and another public hearing.
Okay, Adam, go ahead.
Cost, right?
So I would, so I like Councilman Dayton's, I do like to take action on things. Just two pieces. One is just a clarification for myself and for the public, because I heard a lot of stuff tonight that I'm not quite sure is correct. The first one is, everything we're talking about is beverage. The
Correct.
Food stuff has been on the books well
Correct.
before my time, so there's zero discussion whatsoever about food tonight. So that's one. The second one is some talk again about downtown. Hopefully everyone's clear now that this specifically excludes anything in the downtown area. And then the third one that is also helpful, because I heard a couple times from a couple folks, it's done at 2:30. So anyone that's picking up any beverages, school time after 3 o'clock or dinner time, that shouldn't be happening. So I think one thing that's almost as important as the resolution is making sure that we have the enforcement that will ensure that the beverage, trucks are doing the same thing that we asked them to do. So that was just clarification, and, Wendy, I just want to make sure if there's something I said that was incorrect. My only issue with the resolution, which I tried to bring up last time, I was told I couldn't speak, was, which is a good thing, is I think the fee is somewhat inconsistent with what it should possibly be. So it's $100 for the year. Again, to many people's points, I'm thinking about getting one, because it sounds like fun. $100, you know, I'll ask somebody else to loan me the $100. So I think we have to definitely change that fee. I know we've done work in the past to look at what other towns have done. I know we have a whole list of them. I think Linda, you helped us with that. So I think we really do have to reassess the $100 to make it, let's call it market rate, for lack of a better word.
So can I then ask, with that, piggybacking off of that, would your suggestion as our attorney be that if we choose to pass this, you're saying I could see if an issue comes up regarding the beverage truck staying in one location for many hours, and then go forward with an amendment at a future date? What would your, or do we talk, for example, about raising the fee at this moment? Do we talk about it?
The council can edit an ordinance anytime you choose in the future. You want to raise the fee from $100 to $50,000 a year, a month from now, you can go ahead and do it. If you got the votes to do it, you can do it.
We have to do like the 2 readings.
Yeah,
You do the 2 readings.
And this delays it months, so we have
Right.
no ordinance on the books that regulates any current beverage trucks. So what I'm suggesting tonight is, that's nothing. A monetary change?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question, Dan.
Substantive change.
Why don't we, rather than just, I think rather than pick arbitrary numbers, Wendy, if the council wants to do that, let the borough administrator make some recommendations and we alter the number in the future. Right?
So you're saying, put it up for the vote now, and
Right,
then
vote on
make
it,
these
yes
changes.
or no, move along.
Create your form.
Right, and get it going.
Is someone going to work on that form? Oh, the form,
The
it
borough
will come after.
administrator will take care of the administrative functions.
And I guess, Julia, I said Jeff should weigh in.
Vinu, go ahead.
Right?
The only correction is there is actually food on there. It's pastry items and like
Right.
Is that allowed, or are they doing it again from a?
No, they are allowed, they're fine.
It would be allowed based on.
Still
the
out,
ordinance.
there's prepackaged
Prepackaged.
Hostess Twinkies and things like that. Oreos.
No, it's the new, yeah.
Okay. All right, any questions about any of the other ordinances? Yes, Jeff? A pitch? Oh, go ahead, pitches are good.
How do you think he's?
Join the Yankees, they need another pitcher.
Every Tuesday night during the summer, we have summer concerts.
Oh.
Hundreds of people. I do not really want to be in a position where people are sitting there saying there's nowhere to eat, nothing to eat, so I want to make sure our businesses are aware and ready to eat for hundreds of people who might come down there hungry, looking for picnic type food. I do not want to have discussions with local food vendors for that, because we have great businesses in town. So, every Tuesday night, starting, I think, July 5th, through the entire summer, and a couple of Thursdays, it's on the calendar, and I'll talk more about it later. Please, restaurants, we want those hundreds of people giving business. That's my pitch.
Good pitch. Okay. Any more questions about the ordinances before we move on for the good of the order? Okay, so we're moving on for the good of the order. The first, Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor, the COVID memorial.
Okay, yeah, I'd actually like to invite up Susan as well to talk about this as well. Tonight I'd like to present the findings of the COVID Memorial Committee, which I comprised with Councilman Menon, Resident Susan Turman, and myself. And I just want to give a little bit of an overview for everyone what our findings were and what we'd like to suggest be done. And I think that I'm just going to set it up for you and you tell what you'd like to add, and of course, Councilman Menon. I don't know, Omar, if you have the ability to project those pictures. If it's too much trouble, then then don't worry. But I'll just explain to everyone that we were kind of tasked with having a way to remember what our community has gone through with the COVID-19 tragedy and the residents we lost and we had borough workers we lost as well. And we came together and really came to a very nice consensus regarding what we'd like to see, and we want to see if the council is in agreement. So for first thing, as you see, that is an example of a rock with a plaque on it. That was a picture I took at a rock in Englewood. And we would like to have on a rock a plaque that says, dedicated to the Tenafly victims of COVID-19 taken from us in 2020 to 2021. We didn't want to get involved with specific victims' names. We found out in our interviews with the health official, the health officer, that actually wasn't possible to get a comprehensive list of who passed of COVID because of some privacy concerns, and also it had to do with just some paperwork issues where there might have been some victims of COVID that it wasn't exactly attributed to COVID. So he had suggested that we not have particular people named. So we wanted to come up with a statement like that, but something similar to a plaque that's on a rock. One of the things that Susan had suggested was to keep this in a natural environment. So if you don't mind the next picture, that is a location that was scouted by my colleagues on the committee, and that is in Davis Johnson Park, and that there's a lovely tree there, and this is off of, if you were going to the, kind of that rose garden, not the rose garden, but the building next to it, I guess, that if you came off of that kind of parking lot, walked a little deeper into the park, that's the location. It's this beautiful bending tree and this beautiful rock there, which you could probably see if you were closer to it, but it's at center. There's a rock there, just like waiting for a beautiful plaque and a tree. So, also Davis Johnson Park has some plaques in other locations of it. So this is very doable, it's attractive, and it's really long lasting. And the next picture, if you don't mind, Omar, is a fantastic suggestion from Councilman Menon, which is, this is an example of one, which was in alignment with the natural setting of Davis Johnson Park. He had suggested ordering a durable bench that would be made of recycled plastic. And when I looked, there are just many vendors and many options, but I hadn't realized that, in fact, recycled plastic benches were really such a popular item. So, that the bench would be facing the rock, under the tree, in the shade, and having a beautiful view, a place for contemplation. And we thought that kind of all of that together would kind of go with the ideas that we were coming to collaboratively. And I'll let Susan speak to this, and of course Councilman Menon. But I wanted to say that I think this is kind of in line with what we were hoping to accomplish.
I had volunteered to be on the committee for this because my spouse passed of COVID in April of 2020, and I'm very pleased. It was a pleasure to work with both of you. I'm the one that came up with the idea for the location, and you guys took it from there and ran with it. And I'm very pleased with what you've come up with, and I look forward to moving forward with it. It's a great idea.
Thank you.
Originally, I wanted the names of everyone, but I totally understand that.
Yeah,
It's
well,
possible. That's perfect.
Sure. Very well, thank you for your involvement in your nomination for.
Sure. No, it's very important.
Yeah. The only thing I might also add is, first of all, benches, that might be a model that we could consider for other places in town as well.
Yeah, because I walked around the park and the other benches there are kind of totally
That's true.
Nothing more adorable.
Right, because these are very girls. Sometimes, seems to be, material choice, in some cases. If you're recycling, bottles and things like that, maybe, that serves the purpose of in a town like ours. But the only other thing I might suggest is, the rest of the council agrees, is just a small budget for a landscape architect. So that we can have that location, and we're not going to just a small amount to hire somebody to make that into a nice area, and bring it out with appropriate foliage and
That'd be great.
So why don't we, Julie and Vanu, have an offline discussion with Jimmy, and let's get an estimate together for that architect, and then we can move that forward at the next council meeting.
I wanted to see that Susan Corrado, our finance person, has already been able to research some information about the plaque and the funding sources and things that wouldn't necessarily impact, like there's some funds already that we can maybe tap into. Okay. So I actually wanted at this point hand it off. If the council was in agreement with this vision, then Councilman Menon, if you wanted to talk landscape architect, you're more than welcome to also, bring that up to Jimmy. But I think if the council's in agreement, then this is kind of where the COVID Memorial would like to kind of, be and what it would look like, and then I'd let it go to the professionals.
All right, so that's really the thing on the table, is have council members and Susan go to Jimmy, have a conversation. Jimmy will help them put a kind of a fact sheet together for the council, and then at a subsequent meeting we can vote to move forward on that. Okay?
Okay, great.
All right.
Thanks.
Jimmy, you got that? Thank you, Susan. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda, Councilman Grossman, you had added, you wanted the cannabis, the quick cannabis thing?
Yeah, a year ago, this council was pointing out whether or not we want to take action in advance of the state having a cutoff date for consideration of cannabis. And we did what many towns did of having really the safer route, not rush to judgment, and we would not allow it, but that also permitted us to revisit it at any time. And I do think that we have some potential locations in the far north and far south of the town that maybe it is time to revisit or at least really visit it and see. So that we did have a Congress committee, and those members were from other boards, and some that we've done, but I would like to at least explore whether or not at this point it's something we want to consider, and that we have the times on our side.
So if I could recommend this, we have the cannabis committee put a short agenda together, and then we add it to be considered, whether it's at the next meeting in July, or if they can get that together by then, or in August, and we have a discussion about it. And pick some agenda, top 3 or 5 priorities, what the thoughts are, and then we'll talk it through.
Sounds good.
Good. All right, so next item on the agenda is old business, 123, 145 Dean Drive, redevelopment plan with Clinton Inn. Jeff, how are you doing tonight? If you could use this microphone, please. I know your whole team is here. So just a quick introduction of who the team is and everything for the council again, and where we're going tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Jeff Sen. I'm the planning board attorney. With me tonight, sitting to my right, is David Halls, who's the planning board engineer, and Ed Snikes from Burgess Associates, who's our planner, municipal planner. what's on my left is the developer here. So when we were here, I would think 2 months ago, on the redevelopment plan for this property, there were some concerns and raised and comments by the council members. As a result of that, the planning board went back and tried to make some revisions to the redevelopment plan to address those concerns and comments. We, of course, did that in consultation with the redeveloper, because if we don't have agreement with the redeveloper, we have nothing. So we did those. Planning board was satisfied with those changes, and of course has now recommended them to mayor and council. So what you should have in front of you is a red line dated as of April 22, 2022, that shows very clearly the changes. And Mr. Snikes from Burgess can run through the changes with you. And since some of these changes do impact drainage, if you have any questions from an engineering perspective, David Halls is here and can answer those questions for you as well. So,
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Ed.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you and good evening. Again, it's Ed Snikes with Burgess Associates, professional planner. We had prepared the revised document for 123-145 Dean Drive and redevelopment plan, and it's dated 4/22/2022. Within this document, we have several revisions, and they were based, again, as Jeff had just pointed out, to address the issues that were brought up at the last meeting of March 22nd. We examined those issues and also came up with the proposed changes. The plan changes, which I'll summarize for you, not getting into great detail, but providing the key issues for your consideration, include impervious coverage. At the last meeting, there was a discussion about impervious coverage. We reduced that down to 55% from 70%, where it was previously. So there's a significant reduction in the amount of impervious coverage. We also have, within that same section of the ordinance, which is on page 12, it does have a provision that permits additional incentives within the ordinance itself if they implement green infrastructure. So if they implement green infrastructure such as pervious pavers, you can increase that from 55% to 65%. Previously, that was 80%. So you can see there's a significant reduction again within those numbers. Also, green roofs are also included as defined within the ordinance, and they're excluded from impervious coverage. Green roofs, as we all know, are great ways to mitigate stormwater and retention, as well as cooling buildings. In addition to the impervious coverage changes, we have the maximum building height. That's been adjusted for the assisted living facility. The hotel stays the same at 3 stories, 40 feet. But the assisted living facility has changed from 7 stories, 75 feet to 6 stories, 65 feet. We've also removed the features, what I'll call decorative feature exception, which is that one provision that allowed an additional 15 feet of height for special architectural features. That's been reduced. In addition to that, we have building design and layout. We've made several adjustments within the criteria associated with building design and layout. One is the general development is in accord with the concept plan that was submitted. Obviously, there is a revised full concept plan here, but yet it has to, in part, and be similar to the concept plan that's within the document. We also have the design of the assisted living facility is to reflect the historic nature of the architecture of Tenafly, and to the extent feasible. Again, that has to be within reason, so that there's the ability to work with modern materials. Also, lighter earth tone material is also recommended to the greatest extent feasible. Also, as was mentioned earlier, landscape improvements have been added adjacent to the brook, and that's to impart more native material and native material that are also identified under New Jersey DEP standards relative to stormwater management. And so what we're trying to do here is to implement better microclimate and ecological approaches to stormwater management and landscape management. Lighting is also, lighting is a specific statement is added to direct glare only on the premises, again, to try to address issues of concern of lighting. Stormwater, there were significant changes, wherein there's now a statement that Dean Drive frontage is to be designed to the satisfaction of the engineer of the board. Approvals for outside agencies are also required, including the NJDEP. Drainage design is in accord with strict NJDEP regulations as well. Under parking and loading changes, make-ready EV charging stations are required, and that's a state standard now that applies to any development anyway, but we wanted to capture that and add that to the document. Pervious paving is encouraged to the greatest extent feasible, and again, that's to try to implement those same standards. Sidewalks, we've identified certain ADA criteria at corners that need to be met. Also under parking and traffic, that there's a study, an analysis of Dean and East Clinton Avenue, and that the developer contribute a pro rata share towards the intersection improvements. Also a parking management plan for the approval of use of parking, so there will be a proper review of that document. And any deviations would be subject to board review. So therefore, if it was to be a variance that was being sought, that would be obviously reviewed by a board. And so with that, that summarizes the changes within the document.
We have questions from council. Lauren?
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, planning board, David, Jeff. Thank you for all the work you've done, the developers, for working so collaboratively with both our council and our board. I know many of my concerns you just read off on this, and I want to say thank you for addressing that. I actually want to go to the book. A couple weeks ago, June 2nd, we had a storm here in Ida, Thursday afternoon storm, a couple hours of rain, and I actually have a video to show that Omar, you can't get them up, right? So,
What is this a video of?
so this is the property that is adjacent to this property on the same side of the D. And it's the one with the brook next to it. And what the video shows, some of the property owners sent it in to me, was that the brook and the stormwater was so fast, so high. Oh, here, you turn around, you can actually see it. Sorry, Laura. This is sent to me on my cell phone. Please see the copy. That this was after the storm had stopped and the brook had significantly. This brook had come up and over into the parking lot. I was actually there that day. And I had to roll my jeans to my knees. And so my questions really are going to be the brook that extends past your property, and how we're going to address the stormwater management.
So, Council, that's a legitimate question. And I think Dave, well, I was going to ask Dave to actually give you a little more meat on the bone on the stormwater and drainage section. And then address your question on that property.
Thank you. And Dave, I don't know, have you seen these videos that were sent by property owners?
I've actually seen it much worse than this.
Okay.
So, yes. I'm David Halls. I'm the planning board engineer. There are several changes that have been made to the plan specifically about the stormwater. I'll talk about those first. The municipal drainage system in Dean Drive along the frontage of the street is going to be improved. Presently, if you go on Dean Drive, there's, in this section of Dean Drive, you do have street front flooding along the roadway. Most of that is because there are only several drainage inlets along the frontage of the hotel, plus all the way down, going in a southerly direction. What this section is specifically looking for is adding additional storm drainage inlets along the street, so we're getting the stormwater off the roadway itself into the storm drainage system. So that's what that section is meant to apply to. The second one was all approvals from the outside agencies shall be included in the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. This brook that you see here actually has a drainage area of some 100 acres. It's actually very large. On the smaller storm events, it's a smaller drainage area. You actually heard from several residents tonight talking about their flooding that occurred. that you wouldn't associate with coming to this brook here. One was the condos they were talking about, that the garage is flooded. Their stormwater on the smaller storms flows in a westerly direction towards Tenafly Road, I believe it is. And on the larger storms, that whole system actually comes backwards, goes into the condos, and then flows to this brook here. And then, or actually it's on the other side of the railroad first, and it ties into the same one that's going underneath the downtown area. So, and then there's additional drainage here that comes down from Engle Street. The drainage on the eastern side of Engle Street actually comes down and it's flowing down into Englewood. Larger storms, that storm drainage system can't carry it. And that used to overflow through the properties on Oak and such. There's an overflow pipe system that brings the water actually down through into Dean Drive. And in Dean Drive, there's approximately 1,000 feet of detention basin that's underneath the roadway that the borough and made those improvements some 20 years ago, 15 or 20 years ago. Then that drainage system comes through and goes into the behind this little brook here that you see, and it actually, during the larger storms like Ida, all the overflow comes down through in this area, and it causes a major problem. So what's done here is we want to make sure the developers are aware that they needed to go to DEP, because this is a regulated stream by DEP, and then we want to make sure that they're aware that they need to make the necessary improvements with that. Then there's the last one was the storm drainage design for the entire site must be designed in the more stringent ones, whether it's the state stormwater management rules or the borough. Right now, they both mirror themselves, but there is possible emergency rules that were just set aside by the state that they were going to inflate those numbers, but that has now been set aside temporarily by DEP. So that they would have to adhere to those rules if they did come into effect. So that's what that phrase is meant to be. That being said, there was also one additional one that was not mentioned, and that is the existing drainage system for the existing Clinton Inn. Presently, there is a drainage system on that under whether it's the DEP rules or the municipal rules. They do not have to make any improvements to the existing Clinton Inn site because that's an existing impervious area, and you can, however the drainage is today, they'd be able to continue in the same fashion. What we've done in this plan is we've also put an additional caveat in there that they have to design and collect and detain the roof water from the entire Clinton Inn building. So we've made that so that will have a direct impact and improvement on this brook and the flooding on this brook.
So Dave, that would, in your opinion, would that actually make the condition better than what's currently?
It'll actually make it better, but the problem is the size of the drainage area is so large that it may be immeasurable, but it's the best we can do on this location. So this would be a big improvement for the best improvement that could be made with the site itself.
Lauren, go ahead.
Thank you. And I know that the DEP has more stringent rules and the municipality has more stringent rules, so that's great that we'll be following all that. But again, what I want to come back to is the physical brook that is parallel to both of these properties. In other areas of our town, whether it's private residence or a municipal area, we've actually built up a rock or stone walls as retention walls. Would that work here? Would it prevent the flow? Would it become a conveyance to the area that we don't want? And what are we looking at? Because nothing in here in terms of walling is in the landscape plans.
You would not be able to, well, if you could put walls along the channel, that certainly would not improve the situation that's there. Basically, what you'd be doing is you create the stormwater, trying to funnel it into one location. if you put only a wall on one side, you'd end up pushing the water to the other side. The real issue is the water's trying to get underneath the railroad. There's an existing restriction there. No matter what we do, the water can't fit through the channel open. So there's you can't make the improvement bigger unless you did something upstream, and that the borough did try to address that 15 years ago when they were addressing flooding on Dean Drive, and they were also trying to address the flooding as best they could in this location.
So, a second question. You had talked about adding additional drainage onto Dean Street, Dean Drive. Well, I know there's a county road over there. Have you, at this point in time, been working with the county, are they offering any options here?
The county is not going to make any drainage improvements. All that would be left up to the developer. Most of those drainage improvements would be the recommendation of the borough and not the county.
Could we possibly apply for grants for those things?
For the drainage improvements?
Right. It sounds like similar stuff that Pascal just recently did in another area that was.
If you wanted to apply for a grant, I guess I'd have to first figure out what exactly you're going to spend the money on. What you could do, I mean, the brook could be dredged. I know that there's debris that comes out at the where it crosses under the railroad that does require regular maintenance by the Clinton property. Regular maintenance, maybe once every several years. The borough has been contacting them to make those improvements. Generally, it happens after the office building there floods. That call is there. It's more of a cosmetic thing because the water physically, even when it's open, it can't get under the railroad there. If you got a grant to widen the culvert, what you'd end up doing is you'd end up causing more flooding downstream. You'd cause more things. You have more flooding of the property right there by the bank before it goes underneath the theater buildings.
Right.
So it's the borough did make a proactive stance 15 years ago, and they did a really good job on Dean Drive. The best thing to do is if you created another large ponding area that you could capture the water upstream and do that. That would be the only other thing. And, that would be, I'm going to shoot from the hip here if that's okay. There's a park, there's a green park that's there. If you reshape the park and make that a detention basin or something like that, that would have a benefit. But there's the Dean Drive, the hotel property physically isn't large enough even if you didn't improve it and you took the hotel down and created a pond there, that area is not large enough to improve it. So you would have to meet a larger thing, such as the greenway that's along the railroad and Dean Drive.
Go ahead, Lauren.
I have a lot of questions on the water. So the property that's next to this property is actually legally built below sea level or below.
It's the elevation of the building was set too low when they constructed it.
Will the assisted living and Clinton, will that be lifted up higher than this? And then that's the secondary question is, will it come a slope of water down to that property?
The answer is yes and no. Okay? The building will have to be elevated. There's a flood hazard area with associated with that channel. You've shown that it floods, and you've actually stated that it floods. And they have to design for that, and DEP is going to require them to set that elevation. The concepts that have been submitted have the parking area that has to be elevated also, but then they've raised the grade around the building itself, landscaping and things. So you're not going to really, it's not going to appear that it's way out of the ground. They're going to soften it with their landscaping and work around the building itself. That's how they're going to handle their site. They will not be permitted through DEP to raise the water surface elevation to any properties upstream of them. So that is one of the reviews by DEP. They look at modeling the whole stream before construction, and then they model it again after construction, and you have to show that you do not cause that flooding that you're talking about.
Same last question. Given that we know that brook is flooding both properties right now, as a municipality, should we be looking at that second Bean Drive property and taking some of the impervious pavement next to the brook? Should we be looking to remove some of that to assist in this process?
That the impervious pavement, the only impervious pavement associated with both brooks that's there, DEP will already require them to remove the pavement within 25 feet of the top of the bank of the brook. That's going to be what the DEP is going to require them to do. So a lot of that strip of asphalt is going to be removed already. If you remove even more, then they're not going to have access to the building. They're not going to be able to build the building itself. And so there are certain layers of regulations to the DEP, also to the municipality. Municipality also has a riparian zone regulations, which mirror the states. I keep referring to the states, but the borough has the exact same ones. It's just that the DEP regulation, once they're approved, it meets the borough's regulations.
Turn it over to everyone else.
Anyone else have a question right now? Julie?
Question for you. I have questions for him, though. So my question to you is, I know the green roof situation, so then that would be flush then, not when we talk about these green features on the roof, then that's not adding height, right?
The public is not probably going to be able to see that there's a green roof.
Gotcha.
All right. You won't be able to see it unless you physically go up on the roof itself, because they're going to have some type of mansard roof or architectural feature around the roof. That's going to be also there for covering up their elevator shafts. There's other things that are going to go up. There's other features that are going onto the roof. Any of those areas that aren't used for, I'll call them utilities at this point in time, will be green roof most likely by the developer. Utilize that so that then that area, if you went up there physically, it will be vegetation. The stormwater will go in there. It will be temporary. It will seep through the roof area, the membrane that they have on the roof, and then it will be piped down away from the roof. But it would take longer for the stormwater to flow off that roof than if it was an asphalt roof or a hard surface.
Inclusive of the 65 feet that the developer wants.
You're not going to.
That wouldn't be able to.
That's all going to be membrane of the roof.
Wouldn't
Probably
be
the whole thickness of the green roof might be 1.5 foot.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, go ahead, please.
I don't know if you heard Tom Giordano in a couple of comments, a couple of ideas. I don't know if you remember what sort of idea before. I remember the dredging one, but there were a couple of others. Would you consider any of those to be helpful?
I don't remember that the dredging is, he mentioned the Tenafly Brook. The Tenafly Brook was dredged by the borough approximately 22 years ago, I believe that was.
That's what he was talking about, yeah.
And that was actually for short sections of the brook where the bridges cross. The other portions of it, the borough did the upstream section of Tenafly Brook from Sunnyside Park South. That was probably when the park was improved 20-something years ago too. And that was, all those properties in there used to flood regularly, and the borough took upon that improvement at that time. Yeah, the only one you'd have is the section of this channel that's here, downstream between Franklin and the railroad, and then the next section, I believe the pipes are partially clogged. That would be you could improve the drainage there, but that would be the other thing you could think of that would help. Because once it gets into the culvert is clear all the way to the Tenafly Brook.
Questions, Lauren? Go ahead, please.
So we had discussed the concept of pervious and green parking with water retention within the parking spaces. I think that's one of the main things that will assist this project, the drainage for all the surrounding properties. The proposal is written, it says it's encouraged, not required. So I'm going to throw it out to our team here. What are our options on this issue?
Well, a lot of the parking area initially is under the building. So most of the parking area with the assisted living is under the building itself. So that's not the area you're going to get the pervious pavement. The pervious pavement is actually going to be in the area of the Clinton Inn, and then that I believe if they put the pervious pavement in, then they can increase their coverage.
That's correct. And I was just making sure if I had anything else to offer, but that's pretty much the encouraging it within the design. Often there's also a need to review whether or not you can actually store the water underneath the actual pervious pavement. It becomes a whole next issue, and that's why it's important and it's being encouraged through the planning board process.
That leads me to my very next question is if we have pervious, where is that water going? And we going to constantly be raising our brook level and so forth?
Where it's going to go, we don't know at this point in time. What will happen is it's going to be delayed. They're either going to store it underground in the pervious pavement area and let it percolate in the soil. A lot of the downtown area is sand, so that it can percolate. It all depends on the depth of the water table and things like that. Then they could, if not, it would go through and then go through some type of underground detention system and then be released slowly off the site. So when they do that, then there'll be a direct impact benefit to the communities.
And we don't need to build any sort of conveyance system to move the water, right? If it wouldn't be that possibility.
Well, there may be one, but that would all be on site by the developer. That's not going to be something that's going to be in the borough streets. Dean Drive, actually, by the way, most of Dean Drive through the site is actually the boroughs. It's only a certain section of Dean Drive that's the county's, by the way. Most of the property frontage and such is actually going to be higher in elevation than their drainage system on site. So almost all the drainage improvements are going to be on site by the developer. So it's going to be part of their improvements.
And you're comfortable with that this is enough at this time, that there's nothing else we can do here to protect surrounding property?
What's in this, this is above and beyond, way above and beyond what is normally required of any developer. What they're doing here, what they'll be required to do, not that they're doing it yet, but what they'll be able to do with their design and incorporation will have a major impact on the stormwater from that site itself. And overall, that's a much greater improvement that you'd ever get if it wasn't just a regular developer that came in, that wasn't a redevelopment plan. The drainage system would not have all these bells and whistles to it.
Good, I'd like it to stand for a long time.
Any other questions from the council members?
Yeah, can I ask a question of
Of course,
attorney?
Jeff Zen. Come up to the microphone.
It's a quick question. It's just a procedural thing. You might remember my questions at the last time had to do with my concern about future use of the building. I think one of the residents mentioned about like, what if one time, in the future that this property gets sold and it doesn't stay as an assisted living. And at the time you had said that a future zoning board would need to designate the area. Is that true?
This only allows 2 uses under the redevelopment plan. Sorry.
Yeah.
Trying to be good tonight. Assisted living and hotel use. Okay. So if you're going to stray from that, you would either have to go back to, I think that you allow that we kept the underlying zoning, correct?
That's correct. It's an overlay zone.
So it's an overlay zone, so the underlying zoning still exists, all right? But if you take advantage of the redevelopment plan, the redevelopment area, then it's got to be hotel and assisted living. And both, you should understand, both have limits. There are limits to numbers of hotel rooms, assisted living units. And there's a requirement that they do both. So the developer knows, understands, we've talked about this from day one. You don't have the option to do just assisted living. It's got to be development of assisted living and the rehab of the hotel.
Would they have the option of selling off the hotel piece to do apartments in the future?
That's part of the redevelopment plan. That's, if you will, baked into the deal. It's hotel and assisted living. Now, if they decide, you know what, we're not happy with the redevelopment plan, they have the underlying zoning that they can take advantage of. But anyone does today, so.
No.
Yeah, that's they say, we don't want to go to the underlying zone, we don't want to stick with assisted living hotel. They would have to go to the Board of Justice.
Yes, theoretically, they could always go for a use variance and go to the Board of Adjustment and approve case, the supermajority for a D variance for use variance.
Right, which the Board of Justice is sometimes prone to agree with a request for a variance. Sometimes.
I can't recall a use variance in the past few years, but okay, maybe you recall it. I mean, but no, seriously, that's what you have boards of adjustment for, to evaluate those requests.
Correct, that's exactly the point.
Yes.
It's not an unheard of, the thought that, if business doesn't work out.
Sure. It may mean look, no property is stuck in perpetuity with the existing use if an owner really wants to develop a property a certain way. They can always make that request. There's a super majority that's required from the Board of Adjustment on that D variance.
It's completely unnecessary. The public understood that, if these are things that can happen.
Can I say as well that it is a substantial variance? It's a very critical variance.
Go to the microphone.
So that is critical. Which is going to be a D variance, the use variance. To do that.
And Ed's talking about the most difficult. Usually you have to harmonize or reconcile it with your master plan. You have a master plan and now a redevelopment plan. And again, you can't judge it before it actually comes, but you think it would be hard to reconcile that with a master plan and a redevelopment plan if it was permitted now.
Jeff, go ahead, please.
I just want to clear up, because now I've heard two things that are a little contrasting. The underlying zoning, because this is an overlay. The underlying zoning for the redevelopment plan goes away or doesn't go away? Let's start there.
The underlying zoning does not go away, but once they pursue the redevelopment zoning, the redevelopment plan, they'll have a redevelopment agreement, and they'll effectively be locked into the redevelopment zoning, the overlay.
So even though the changing would be a permitted use with the zone, they still have to go for a D variance?
No, then we're talking through each other. But I misunderstood that.
Yeah, so the D variance is, I'm saying Councilman Menon was raising it if they wanted to not move forward with the redevelopment plan or the underlying zoning that exists today.
Well, I'm asking the question, if sometime, let's say 10 years down the road, something is not economically working out, and they want to go to one of the underlying uses.
They can.
They can't pick and choose. They have They came in, they would have it redeveloped with a hotel and an assisted living facility. Okay? They can't say, okay, well, I have my assisted living facility, I want to now make my hotel residential. That's not part of it. Okay? Now, they can say, you know what, the whole thing has gone bad, and we want to take advantage of the underlying zoning because our plans didn't work out. We built this assisted living facility, we rehabbed the hotel, didn't work out. Yes.
And that doesn't require underlying zoning? That does not require the D variance? Okay.
Hi, this is John on behalf of the developer. The underlying zoning today has much less density than what would be developed with the hotel. I think the concern is if the hotel's developed for the 145, not the hotel, the assisted living facility is developed for 145 beds, can a person in the future say, I just want to convert this now to residential? The answer is no. They would have to, if they were doing that, they would have to go, we're looking at underlying zoning now, you would have to make an application to the zoning board for a use variance, not just for the use, for the density and for the height. So there's so many things that this developer would be asking for, and the proofs are very substantial. So there's absolutely no way that a future developer can convert the assisted living facility to a residential apartment as of right. They would have to go before the zoning board of adjustment and request all those variances, which I won't go through the proofs, but they would be, it was very, very challenging for that to be granted.
Yes, you make a good point of that. I'm really focusing on use. Of course, the permitted height is not permitted under the underlying zoning. So you block off a few floors and of course, this is talking about the density, and I have no idea what the density would translate to in terms of what's permitted per the residential zoning.
And in terms of definition of a hotel, is that something that the law envisions? Because I know that some places have hotels that become residential hotels where people could stay for a month, 2 months.
People live in hotels, yeah.
How would that be handled?
This is not an extended stay hotel. It's identified as a hotel, which means that it has to have a capacity aspect of a hotel, how long you can stay in that location.
I said in the plan, the definition, where is that? So
that is common definition under like regulation definitions. The extended stay is more for a longer term period of time, which I think where you retain with that, and some new areas of residence. And that's not the potential of a hotel. The hotel itself would be more of a shorter term stay, as far as actually physically described. And I'll check your ordinance as far as but oftentimes we see definitions of hotel as towns try and distinguish between a full-service hotel versus an overnight hotel. And while we don't have the formal definition, in effect, we do have a full-service hotel because we have a restaurant, we have banquet facilities, and that's baked into the plan, although it's not within a definition of a hotel, but it is baked into the plan. So in effect, you're having a full-service hotel.
Questions from other council members? Okay, Jeff, do you have any kind of summary or any other things you'd like to say? Does the developer want to speak?
I don't have any summary. I'm just here to answer questions, but if the developer has...
Does the developer have anything you'd like to say?
Sorry, Councilman Parker.
Just identify yourself, please.
From the consultant developer.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just want to answer your question. Councilman Park was asking, does the hotel have a liquor license? It does have a liquor license, and I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think any hotel development under keys in the state of New Jersey automatically gets a liquor license issued. So
it's incremental to whatever the town has?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with the allocation.
Those two don't work together.
Yeah, there's a special, I'm not a liquor license law expert, but I know that, a hotel license is different than what your traditional license would be.
It is,
Like,
yes.
for a restaurant, it would be, based on population. For hotels, there's separate licensing, and if you have 100 rooms or more, don't hold me to it, but I believe that's the threshold, then you get a hotel liquor license.
Right, it's the same one that the existing Clinton Inn has. Yes.
Actually, that's a really follow-up question, but so does the license apply to different, so let's say open more than one restaurant within the hotel, can they all use that license?
Yes, it's one license, and I do know for a fact that it has to do with the operator.
Okay.
So generally in a hotel operation, it's one operator operating the restaurant and the banquet facility. So it's one liquor license that covers all of the facilities.
Go ahead, Andrew.
So, it's been a long time. And I just want to say, I'm not only here as a consultant for the developer, I'm also here as a resident. And I just, people have said it, a number of people got up and supported, but I just would urge the council to see the widespread benefits of this project as a catalyst project for the town. Everyone here wants the same thing. They just want to see Tenafly move forward to improve. I didn't live here when Tenafly had the kids' clothing store and all these great things that I hear about all the time. We can get back there. I don't think someone on the phone made a ridiculous comment about children hanging out at an assisted living facility. Okay, that's not the intent of this project. The intent of this project is to bring investment to Tenafly, and let that investment be a catalyst for everything else going on. There's a lot of great things going on that keep propping up downtown. Councilman Grossman's concerts and the outdoor dining. There's so much stuff that over the last number of years have really continued to propel, and this is something that I know, not just as working consulting for the developer, but also as a resident, is just going to help and take Tenafly, I guess, bring it back to how people remember it. So I, urge the council to vote for this, and I really do thank everyone's time on this, council's time, all professionals, planning boards, just everyone, the listening sessions, etc. And I think environmentally, from a flooding perspective, actually chased Tom out the door on the way, so we had a good conversation, so I think that will be very beneficial to the things that he's looking, what he was focused on. And again, I think, hoping we're going to, have a positive result here, and I just think this is going to be a great thing for the town, for the borough. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other final questions for council members? From council members? Any other comments? Jeff, team, manager, team?
I'm trying to thank you for being so patient. It's been a long meeting for a lot of reasons.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn the work session to go into the regular meeting immediately. Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to go right into the public meeting. You ready, Omar? In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal building, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a roll call, please, Omar.
Here.
Here. Counselor, any revisions to the agenda?
Not revisions, just wanted to remind everyone of the clarifications for Resolution R22-191 as well as R22-197.
Okay. It's public comment time. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body. Large groups are requested to have a spokesperson represent them. Any members of the public here in council chambers who would like to speak? Yes, please come to the microphone, state your name.
Christine Evron, 39 Leroy, and this is actually about the ordinance that's coming up. I don't think you have a tremendous need to rush to get a beverage truck running around Tenafly. School is letting out, and as I understand it, this beverage truck is going to the schools. To think that that doesn't impact the businesses and cherry pick their customers, because the businesses all report a surge right after drop-off and right before pickup. There's just no reason to have this truck running around Tenafly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public here would like to speak? Omar, are there any members of the public? I'm sorry, go ahead, please, come up. That's what I get for taking my glasses off. I can't see anything.
Again, Thomas Lemakis, live on 20 Royden Road, and my business is Yasu Santorini on 35 Washington Street. I just have a few questions, a few minutes. What's the rush for the food venue? Who brought up the food venue from 7:30 to 2:30? 7:30 is heavy traffic wherever we go. I take my kids to the school, there's heavy traffic all over. So if you're going to put a food vendor at 7:30 to whatever spot you're going to put them, you create safety and more traffic. The other question I have, you said that you are allowed them on certain spots inside the properties. Are you talking about a private party? Private parties, they are coming. They have hot dogs, gyro trucks, ice cream trucks. They're coming to the private parties. There's no reason to put any regulation on that. My understanding is, from the time that we were talking to each other, you're talking about one food truck, beverages. Hansel Michael said, but there is food inside that truck.
Yeah.
I saw it.
It's got
Because I
pastries.
donated food in the middle school, and I saw the truck. It was the first time I saw it. So my point again is, like I said, you're going to give to somebody for $100 a year the ability to come in and take business. You're talking about a great project. It's going to bring business to all of us. And on the other side, the same night, you're talking about the pirates. I'm going to call them the pirates just to make it really humorous. The pirates are going to come in, paratroopers coming in for 2 hours, selling coffee, muffins, banana, apple, candy, whatever they say, because they're going to sell it. If I'm in business to sell, I'm going to bring everything that my customers are coming to my food truck, and they're not going to stop. So, what's the purpose of that? Why you people want to bring them in? What's the reason for that? Who is calling for that? Somebody who wants to buy a coffee, and they don't want to walk 7 minutes? Somebody who has maybe a personal interest on that food truck? What is going on? They want to compete like my good neighbor. He came next to me, burritos. I don't even know him. Titos. I thought it was a vodka first, but it's not. So he came next to me. He probably spent $500,000 to fix that place for over a year now. And you're going to put this guy in direct competition with a food truck that is coming for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. What's the reason for that? That's all I'm asking. I don't know how else to explain that. And I'm going to finish with that. How many coffee, beverages, or food trucks are you going to allow? Because if that's the case, I'm going to close my store. Fire all the people that are working for me, get a food truck, I can still stand up and sell gyros. This is what I'm going to do. How many food trucks are you going to
Is there a limit?
These things that we have and we want to pass tonight is not clear. We're not talking about how many food trucks, we're not talking about the spots, we're not talking about the parks. So it's geared to one food truck. And I finish that here. Again, please don't pass that thing that I'm reading.
There's not a limit on the number.
I can't even figure out what was Thank you for your
Thank you.
Not a limit on the number.
Okay. Anyone else here have a comment, public comment? Manu, is there anybody on Zoom?
Right, but we give permission to. Okay.
No hands? Okay. We're going to close public comment. We're going to move to the consent agenda. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as edited for R22-191 and R22-197, please. Do I have a second? Omar?
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Parker?
Okay. It's up to you or me? Okay, public hearings. The first ordinance is excuse me, hold on. Okay. It's 22-13, right? Okay. 22-13, Omar, the mobile food vendors. Omar, can you read the confirmation and publication of the ordinance and the title of the ordinance?
Sure. This is ordinance number 22-13, and it was published in the May 31st edition of the record. It's an ordinance amending Chapter 4, General Licenses of the Revised General Ordinances.
Okay. I'd like to open the floor for any public comment on ordinance 22-13 only. Would anyone like to make any comments? Omar, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to make a comment? Okay, and there's no hands here. I'm going to close public comment. Councilman Park, would you like to make a motion?
I move to pass and adopt the second and final reading, ordinance 22-13, and notice of same shall be published according to law.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Omar, can you read the roll, please?
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
No.
Councilmember Michaels?
I'm going to vote no. I actually am supportive of the idea of variety. It's actually came from residents, and residents are using it. I think unfortunately we just did not write it properly. Obviously, $100 is nothing, it's just not even reasonable. So I have to say no for now.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
So I have problems with the way it's written, but I do recognize that the mayor said that that some of these things are going to be ironed out with the actual form, the use form and things. If we pass it, and we can raise the fee later. So I'm going to go yes right now.
Councilmember Parker?
No.
Mayor, vote.
So it's split? So I'll vote yes. Okay, 22-14, establish the salaries, 2020-2020 OPIU. Omar, can you please read confirmation of publication of the ordinance and title of the ordinance?
Sure. Ordinance number 22-14 is published in the May 31st edition of the record. It's an ordinance to fix the salary, wage, or compensation of certain supervisory and administrative employees of the Borough of Tenafly represented by OPIU Local 37.
Okay, I'd like to open the floor for public comment on ordinance 22-14 only, please. No public comment here. Omar, is there any public comment on Zoom? Okay. Councilman President Grossman, could I get a motion, please, on this?
I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinance 22-14, and that notice the same shall be published according to law.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Omar, can you please conduct a roll call?
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Okay, 22-15, salary for administrative employee bargaining unit. Omar, could you please read the publication of the ordinance and the title?
Ordinance number 22-15 is an ordinance published in the May 31st edition of the record. Is an ordinance to amend the title, salary, wage, or compensation of the employees of the Borough of Tenafly administrative employees, bargaining units for the calendar years 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023.
I'd like to open the floor for any public comment on ordinance 22-15 only. Anyone here? No? Omar, anyone out on Zoom? Okay. Councilwoman Dayton, could I have a motion, please?
I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinance 22-14, and that notice of same shall be published according to law.
Could I have a second, please? Omar, can you please conduct the roll?
Yes.
Councilor Rosen? Yes. Councilor Lynn? Yes. Councilor Michaels?
Yes.
Councilor O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilor Ward? Yes.
Okay, thank you. In the interest of time, I think we should skip our committee reports. We'll move on to new business. We have the 2022 local municipal budget. Councilman Menon, would you like to make the motion, please? Take your time. You want this for them?
I move to adopt number R22-197.
199.
Actually, it says 197. I know.
Could I have a second, please? Omar, can you please call the roll?
Councilor Dayton?
Yes.
Just so I'm clear, what we're amending. I've read through this several times, I just want to make sure we're clear on what exactly.
I think we just missed the date with the record. Like, we just missed the...
So as already shown in the last meeting's the budget, when it was advertised in the paper, it was to be advertised in the May 29th edition of the record, which was Sunday, but it wanted to be in the May 31st edition of the record. So
That's all.
So we have to do the resolution again, be advertised, which will be advertised on the 22nd of June, and then we'll be able to adopt the budget after.
Right, so it's exactly the same one that you considered at the last meeting, but the newspaper didn't publish it at the time that was requested.
I just want to make them
No.
real clear.
I read it multiple times as well.
I know what we're voting on, the public understands why this is what it is. So, yes.
Okay.
Councilor Bennett? Yes. Councilor Michaels?
Yes.
Councilor O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilor Ward? Yes.
Okay, introduction of ordinance 2204, 123, 145 Dean Drive redevelopment plan. Councilman Michaels, would you like to make a motion?
I move to introduce on first reading ordinance 22-04 and set the hearing for June 28, 2022 at 8 p.m. or as soon thereafter.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, can you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct the roll call?
Ordinance number 22-04, an ordinance of the Council of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, New Jersey, adopting the 123-125 Dean Drive redevelopment plan for block 906, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4. Councilmember Davis.
I just want to again thank everyone who's worked so tirelessly on this project. I'm against.
Councilmember Wilson.
No.
Councilmember Bennett.
No.
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Connor.
I want to also thank everyone for their work. Unfortunately, I still feel the height is my issue, and I live in that area of town where it's more impacted. So, and those are my neighbors who are concerned about the height. So I'm going to still have to be a no, unfortunately.
Councilmember Ward. Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Actually, Mr. Mayor, if you could just indulge me for just 1 second on we're done with the ordinance, correct?
we're done with the ordinance, but go ahead.
Yeah, super quick, and at the risk of, losing my public. So we just had our voting last week, right? Or earlier this week? Last week.
Election? Yeah,
Yes, we had
last
elections
Tuesday.
last week. And I am so proud actually, whichever way we were, for or against on the Clinton Inn issue, it was great to see the public so engaged. I take the win regardless of which way we went. We had the election last week. We had 624 votes. Total. We have 15,000 people in Tenafly. 10,000 residents are over 18. We have about over 6,000 that are registered Democrat or Republican. Everyone else can't vote as an independent in the primary. 624 votes. And I implore all of us, regardless of which way you go, we need to have engagement, not after the fact, after we've been elected and let's talk about an event that's happening. But this is the time to do it, and I implore everybody for the general election in November every year, for the primary election in June every year, please, 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 we should be having more than 10% of our registered people vote. So I appreciate the indulgence. Please, 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 please.
Good point.
I just want to say tonight, I was pretty much on the fence on this project for a little bit. I heard from so many residents, and having those conversations, I felt very representative making my vote tonight, and I felt like I heard a lot from our public on both sides, but I will say, I think overwhelmingly I heard support for the project.
Decisions are made by those that show up, right? Someone else smarter than me.
Where'd you get that quote from?
Somebody smarter than me.
Okay.
Lindsay Till. She told me.
All right. So that was plenty of mayor's remarks, so I'll skip any other remarks. We're going to go into closed session. So, Councilor, can you read? Thank you for everyone who was here tonight.
Thank you so much.
So Resolution R22-200, be it resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly are going into closed executive session to discuss collective bargaining and attorney-client privilege potential litigation.
Could I have a motion to go into close? Could I have a second? All in favor? We're going into closed session. Okay. It is 10:30.
The food truck thing passed for now. I mean, that's Tuesday, I'm not so worried about it.
I need this.
No, it's not the water, like we open.
Okay, Sentinel, I need this. All this can stay behind, this can stay behind, I need this. Correspondence. What did you say?
When we come back in here.
For a split second. All in favor? Aye. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
I do the same thing I told you that I never would. I told you I changed.